Chapter 2162. The earth-shaking explosion made everyone's ears ring. They felt the powerful aura of the heavenly thunder spreading in the surroundings. The airflow visible to the naked eye surged like water ripples and spread outwards. Boom! The second bolt of heavenly thunder struck down. Everyone laughed happily, especially Bai Qingqing. Her face was filled with joy. She looked at Yao Feng, who was preparing to strike down the third bolt of heavenly thunder, and then looked at the youth in green who was still refining. Her beautiful face could not help but reveal a smile. This youth was destined to be her servant. The last bolt of pill thunder struck down. Other than Song Ming, almost everyone felt that the youth in green would lose without a doubt. However, Feng Jiu did not care so much. She had wasted a lot of spiritual herbs, and only this last batch of the main herbs was left. Therefore, this batch must not have any mistakes. Moreover, after failing so many times, she more or less knew where the problem was. Now, she only needed to focus on refining this batch of pills. On the other side, Peak Master Yao waited for the aura of the pill thunder to disperse before he went forward to take out the pills. There were 3 pills. However, 2 of them had turned into useless pills, and only one was successful. Even so, he was inexplicably excited. All the alchemists knew how difficult it was to refine the purple heart barrier breaking pill. Now, he had only failed twice and succeeded on his 3rd try. Even if it was only a 6th level lower grade pill, it was enough for him to be excited for a long time. Moreover, he knew that he would definitely win. Thinking of this, his proud gaze turned towards the green-robed youth who was focused on refining pills. He could not help but chuckle. That purple leaf twinning is this old man's. Little brat, you have to suffer a little to learn that there is always someone better than you. Feng Jiu did not have the mood to care about what Peak Master Yao was muttering. She was wholeheartedly focused on the pill furnace. After learning from her previous failures, she became more careful and meticulous in handling things. As time passed, the sun was about to set. The time was about to end. The surrounding people were preparing to see the final success or failure. However, at this moment, they smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. This medicinal fragrance was different from ordinary medicinal fragrances. Just smelling this medicinal fragrance caused many disciples to be in a daze. In the end, some of them actually sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. Upon seeing this, the sect leader and the peak masters were slightly surprised. They looked at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. This medicinal fragrance seems to be, murmured one of the peak lords. He couldn't help but stand up and take 2 steps forward. Just as he was about to take another step forward, Song Ming stopped him. Peak Master, there's no need to rush. It's not time yet. There was a smile on Song Ming's face. He took in the expressions on everyone's faces and revealed a smile. He knew that Feng Jiu would not disappoint. Compete with her in alchemy? These people didn't even know who she was, yet they dared to bet against her. And that by Qingsheng, who had bet against her so easily. This was going to be interesting. Chapter 2163. Peak Master Yao was stunned when he caught a whiff of the medicinal fragrance. He was the Peak Master of Yao Peak and the leader of the 4 Pill Masters in the 4 major celestial sects. He knew what was going on just by smelling the rich medicinal fragrance. However, he did not expect this. He did not expect a boom. A bolt of lightning suddenly struck, and a loud sound jolted him back to his senses. He stared blankly at the scene in front of him and did not know how to react for a moment. Boom! The second bolt of lightning struck, followed closely by the third. At this moment, the medicinal fragrance had already faded away, leaving only the aura of the heavenly lightning lingering in the air. All the disciples who had been sitting cross-legged in cultivation opened their eyes at this moment. Each and every one of them looked at the green-robed youth in front of them with a strange expression, as well as his cauldron of pills. Bai Qingsheng was also stunned. When she saw the 3 bolts of lightning strike, her heart began to panic. If she had not held on with all her might, her trembling legs would not have been able to support her body. The sect master stood up and stepped forward. His steps carried a sense of urgency and his eyes were filled with unconcealable curiosity. He came to the green-robed young man's side and asked, "Is the pill done?" "It's done." She nodded in response and walked forward. Raising her hand, she opened the lid and took out the 3 medicinal pills inside. However, one of them was a strange pill. The color of the medicinal pill was not quite the same. The other 2 medicinal pills were pure 6th-grade purple heart barrier breaking pills. Feng Jiu placed the 3 pills on a jade plate on the table. The rich spiritual aura from the 3 pills stunned the sect master and the peak masters who had gathered around them. Their 6th-level purple heart barrier breaking pills. Out of the 3 pills, 2 of them were successful. One of the peak masters exclaimed in disbelief. His eyes widened as he stared at the green-robed young man in shock. How did you do it? How could you refine such pills at such a young age? Supreme grade, 6th-level purple heart-breaking yang pill. The peak master of Yao Peak, who had squeezed his way in, stared at the 3 pills on the jade plate and mumbled to himself. His expression was filled with shock. His eyes were fixed on the pills on the jade plate, as if he was afraid that he had seen wrongly. How is this possible? Unknowingly, Bai Qingsheng had also arrived at the table. When she saw the 2 pills with 6 elixir veins on them, her face turned pale and she panicked. Her legs gave way and she fell to the ground. After Feng Jiu took in everyone's expressions, he looked at Peak Master Yao. "Peak Master Yi, where are your medicinal pills? Take them out and we'll know who's the winner." Hearing this, Peak Leader Yao's heart trembled. He stared at the young man in green before him and glared at him. "Who the hell are you? A person with such talent in alchemy could not possibly be a nobody. Just who was this young man?" Not only the sect leader and the others, but even Bai Qingsheng, who was sitting on the ground, clenched her fists tightly and asked through gritted teeth, "Who are you? Who is it? That's right. Who is this green-robed young man? How could he concoct such a pill?" It was obvious that the green-robed youth had won the alchemy competition. Chapter 2164. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Feng Jiu curled his lips into a smile. He cupped his fists and bowed to the crowd. His voice was casual and carried a hint of a smile as he said, "Everyone, allow me to formally introduce myself. I am Feng Jiu." Feng Jiu? Hearing this name, everyone felt that it sounded familiar. It was as if they had heard this name before, but they couldn't recall where. "Why do I feel like I've heard this name before?" One of the peak masters said. He was deep in thought, but he couldn't recall where. "I feel like I've heard it before too, but I don't know when I've heard it from someone," another peak master said with a slight frown. The sect leader also felt that this name sounded familiar, but he couldn't recall where. Seeing this, Feng Jiu smiled and asked, "Sect leader, peak masters, did I win this competition?" Hearing this, the crowd couldn't be bothered to think about who Feng Jiu was. They looked at each other, then glanced at Peak Master Yao, who was in disbelief, and Bai Qingsheng, who was in a daze. In this competition, the winner and loser depended on these 2 people. Peak Master Yao had lost a 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb, while Bai Qingsheng had lost her entire life. Thinking of this, it was difficult for them to speak. If Bai Qingsheng was really the star of the phoenix, but she had lost to Feng Jiu and had to be his servant for the rest of her life, could such a person really be the star of the phoenix? From what they knew, the star of the phoenix should be extremely talented and lucky. Since the star of the phoenix was the ruler of the world, it was bound to be incomparable to others. Bai Qingsheng, on the other hand, seemed to lack more than just a little bit of luck. "Master, please announce the winner and loser," Song Ming said as he looked at his master, the sect leader of the Sky Sun sect. He believed that with his master's character, he would handle this matter fairly. Hearing this, the sect master took a deep look at Peak Master Yao and Bai Qingsheng. He then whispered a few words to the other peak masters beside him. Then, with a voice that contained spiritual energy, he said, "Feng Jiu is the winner of this alchemy competition." The voice that contained the aura of spiritual energy spread through the air and clearly entered the ears of all the disciples. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief, especially the disciples of Medicine Peak. They even shouted in disbelief, "How is this possible? How can my master lose to that brat?" The sect master's sharp gaze swept across the surroundings with pressure. The surrounding people immediately quieted down. He retracted his gaze and looked at Peak Master Yao, who was standing in a daze. His eyes were fixed on the purple heart barrier-breaking pill on the jade plate. He asked, "Elder Yi, you've lost. Do you admit defeat?" The Peak Master of Medicine, Peak regained his senses and smiled bitterly. "Yes, I've lost. I admit defeat wholeheartedly." The other youth's 2-tier, 6 superior grade purple heart barrier breaking pills were placed in front of him just like that. No matter whether it was in terms of pill grade or luster, they far surpassed him. What reason did he have to not admit defeat? "Sigh, it's good that you admit defeat." Fengjiu narrowed her eyes with a smile on her face. "You've lost but not lost. It's still very impressive." As she spoke, she patted Peak Master Yao's shoulder. Only then did she step forward to take out a bottle and prepare to store the pills. When Peak Master Yao heard Fengjiu's words, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 2165. Fengjiu, your pills. The sect leader couldn't help but ask when he saw the young man take out a bottle and put all the pills in it. However, he was interrupted before he could finish his sentence. "I don't plan to sell this pill, nor do I plan to exchange it. I don't plan to give it away." Fengjiu smiled and looked at the stunned sect master. At the same time, she put away the 3 bottles in her hand. Hearing this, the sect master was stunned. Look at how smoothly this young man spoke, as if he had already experienced this more than once. Before he even spoke, the sect master already knew what he wanted to do. He couldn't help but look at the young man and shake his head. He smiled and said, "With your cultivation, you don't need this purple heart barrier breaking pill. Instead of keeping it, why don't I exchange it with you for something you need? Don't worry, I will never let you suffer a loss." Hearing this, Fengjiu curled her lips and smiled. She looked up at the sect master, and the smile on her face was somewhat evil. "Sect master, do you think that I don't need the purple heart barrier breaking pill with my cultivation? Your cultivation is at the peak of the gold core stage. You don't need this purple heart barrier breaking pill." The sect master said truthfully. The spiritual power aura on the young man was at the peak of the gold core stage. With such strength and cultivation, he didn't need this purple heart barrier breaking pill. Fengjiu chuckled. "It's okay, I will need it." As soon as she finished speaking, she didn't give the sect master a chance to speak. Instead, she walked to Bai Qingsheng and squatted down. Looking at Bai Qingsheng, whose beautiful face had turned pale at this time, she smiled and said, "You've lost. You will be mine in the future." Bai Qingsheng's lips moved slightly. She looked at the young man with a pale face and couldn't say a word. She only felt dizzy and had a feeling that the world had collapsed. Why did she have to be greedy? Why did she covet the other party's Aurora transmission scroll? Why did she use herself as a bet? Why at this time, her heart was full of regret and panic. She didn't know what to do. Master, save me." That she suddenly came back to her senses and thought of her master. She staggered forward and grabbed her master's robe, begging him to save her. She didn't want to be this young man's servant. She didn't want to. Yuan pulled his robe back and said calmly, "I tried to persuade you, but you didn't listen. This is the path you chose. Since you lost, then accept it." Master, tears fell from Bai Qingqing's eyes. Her face was filled with sorrow and helplessness. She no longer had the arrogance and confidence she had when Fengjiu first met her. "Since it's a slave, I'll have to leave someone to restrain it." As Fengjiu spoke, she moved her hand and spiritual energy filled her fingers. She placed her hand on top of Bai Qingqing's head. When she planted her mark on her body, she also took out a strand of her divine consciousness. Feeling his mark on her body, and at the same time, a strand of her divine sense being taken away by him, she couldn't help but turn ashen and pale. She was finished. Her life was finished. Seeing her ashen face, Fengjiu smiled and said, "I'll give you 3 months. Once you've settled your matters, come to the Heavenly Pill Dispensary in 100 River City and look for me. Do your job well and be obedient. Perhaps one day, when I'm in a good mood, I'll set you free." Heavenly Pill Dispensary in 100 River City? Chapter 2166. Hearing this, Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and looked at Peak Master Yao. At this moment, the Sect Master and the various Peak Masters finally knew why the name Fengjiu was so familiar. So it was her. It was Ghost Dr. Fengjiu. It was no wonder that they couldn't remember that Ghost Dr. Fengjiu was a woman. Moreover, according to the information they received, Ghost Dr. Fengjiu liked to wear red clothes and was incomparably magnificent. However, the youth in front of them was wearing an inconspicuous green robe, and his strength was completely restrained. No wonder they couldn't remember for a moment. At this moment, the Sect Master finally knew why this young man could refine this 6th-level Purple Heart Barrier-breaking pill. He finally knew what this young man meant when he said that the Purple Heart Barrier-breaking pill would definitely be useful. According to what he knew, this Ghost Dr. Fengjiu's strength had long reached the Immortal Sage level. It made sense for her to keep this Purple Heart Barrier-breaking pill for her own use. No wonder her words were always filled with confidence. It was because she already knew that she wouldn't lose. Looking at everyone's shocked and astonished expressions, Fengjiu smiled and narrowed her eyes. Hee, isn't that me? Who asked them not to ask her name? They didn't remember who she was even if they asked. All right. She admitted that she had kept a low profile after coming here. Songming didn't know what she was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely roll his eyes at her. Low profile? She wanted to keep a low profile. But looking at the things she did, which one could keep a low profile? At the same time, in 100 River City's Heavenly Pill House, Lung Hua and Du Fan looked at the sky outside. The sun was about to set, but Master had not returned yet. Master had clearly said that he would definitely return today. Master hasn't returned yet. Do you think he won't be able to get that spiritual medicine? Du Fan asked Lung Hua worriedly. Probably not. Lung Hua said, Master knows people in the Sky Sun sect. They should be able to help. Besides, the sun hasn't set yet. If Master wants to return, you'll be here soon. Hearing this, Du Fan held the folding fan in his hand and frowned. But I don't know why, but I've been feeling uneasy this afternoon. Do you think something happened? What could happen? Lung Hua looked at him and asked. Du Fan frowned and pondered. I'm worried that the enemies of the black market will find us when Master is not here. I heard that they are very powerful. Even if Fire Phoenix is here, I'm still worried. Hearing this, he looked outside and said, Yes, I'm worried too. Let's do it this way. Let's close, said Luo, and the rest. Said Du Fan replied and walked inside. He went inside and ordered everyone to put away their things. He also asked them to close the door early and rest. Finally, he asked the medicine maids to go back to their rooms. Waiter, you should go back early today too. Lung Hua said to Waiter Yang, Be careful on the road. Go home early and rest. Hearing this, Yang Xiao was a little confused. Big brother Lung Hua, did something happen? Why are you closing so early today? Nothing, we just have some things to discuss. That's why we close early, so that everyone can go back and rest. Lung Hua said with a warm smile. Chapter 2167. Before she could finish her words, she felt a murderous aura coming from behind her. The murderous aura was too strong and fierce, so much so that she couldn't move even if she wanted to. Swish! Be careful. Almost at the same time, Lung Hua reached out and pulled her back. He took a step forward and instantly pushed her back. His gaze swept past the sword mark on the side of the door that was cut by the sword chi. He frowned slightly and looked at the person outside. Big brother Lung Hua. Yang Xiao was shocked. His face was slightly pale as he looked at the person who had suddenly appeared outside. At the same time, he shouted inside, Big brother Du, Big brother Fan, Big brother Luo, come quickly. Who are you? Why are you attacking our Heavenly Pill building? Lung Hua asked in a calm voice. His gaze fell on the 20 or so people who had surrounded the place. Among these 20 or so people, the weakest was at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and the strongest was even a celestial sage. If they were to fight, they would not be able to defeat them with their current strength. Among them, a middle-aged man in the lead walked out with his hands behind his back. He frowned and glanced at Lung Hua, then glanced at the signboard of the Heavenly Pill building. His low voice was filled with a sharp and intimidating aura. "Are the people from the black market here? Hand them over. Otherwise, don't blame us for destroying your heavenly pill building." The deep voice contained a powerful pressure. Every word smashed towards Lung Hua as if it weighed 1,000 kilograms. Lung Hua's body trembled slightly under the pressure of the other party's pressure, and sweat appeared on his forehead. "We don't have anyone from the black market here." Lung Hua suppressed the surging blood qi in his body and said in a calm voice, "Are you trying to protect them? You have guts." The middle-aged man snorted, and a pressure that could be seen with the naked eye attacked. However, at this moment, Elder Tan stood in front of Lung Hua and blocked the pressure for him. "I'm afraid you're mistaken. We're only in the pill building. We don't have the person you're looking for." Although he was stronger than Lung Hua, he was still no match for the Celestial Sage. After blocking the Celestial Sage's intentional pressure, sweat began to seep out of his forehead. "Really? Search him. Those who block the way will be killed without mercy." The middle-aged man shouted in a deep voice. He raised his hand and signaled the people around him to rush forward. "Meet the enemy," shouted Du Fan. More than 20 silhouettes rushed out and blocked the entrance of the Heavenly Elixir building. When they saw those people coming with swords, they also took out their swords to meet them. The sound of swords clashing against swords could be heard in the air. When the passers-by saw this scene, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. They were afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire and hurriedly retreated. In an instant, they could only see the murderous aura between the sword and the blade, which made them shudder with fear. How did the Heavenly Pill House get into trouble again? These people are so powerful. Every move is filled with killing intent. I think the people from the Heavenly Dan building won't be able to hold on for long. How could that be? Wasn't there still the Ghost Doctor? Her combat strength is so amazing. She should be fine. It's strange. They're already fighting. Why didn't the Ghost Doctor come out? She's very powerful. If she came out to help, it would be fine. If it's just them, I don't think they can hold on for long. Chapter 2168. This was because the weakest of those people was at the peak of the nascent soul stage. Moreover, those people did not hide their strength and release their pressure one by one. The airflow formed in the air was very powerful. Even though they had already retreated far away, they could still feel the terrifying aura. The people in the Heavenly Pill House, whether it was the Phoenix Guards or the other Guardians, most of their strength was between the peak of the nascent soul stage and the flying immortal stage. With this kind of strength, they would not be at a disadvantage against people of the same strength, but against immortal sage experts, it would be a little difficult. With a bang, a Phoenix Guard was attacked by the sword chi. Even though he quickly retreated, the black robe on his chest was still cut, revealing a long wound that was so deep that his bones could be seen. Hiss! A suppressed, muffled sound came from the Phoenix Guard's mouth. His body seemed to have lost its strength and fell back. He was caught by the Phoenix Guard behind him and sat on the ground. "Let me do it! Let me do it!" Seeing this scene, although Yang Xiao was very afraid, she still quickly ran forward to support the seriously injured Phoenix Guard. She helped him into the room and said anxiously, "Don't worry, I'll stop the bleeding for you. It's fine, it's fine." Her hands were trembling. She took out a hemostatic medicine and sprinkled it on the Phoenix Guard's chest while comforting him. "This is the hemostatic medicine that Sister Feng concocted. It will stop the bleeding if you sprinkle it on the wound." She tore a piece of cloth from her skirt and bandaged his wound. Then, she helped him into the room and said, "Stay here. I'll go to the front and take a look." The Phoenix Guard's face was pale. Because of his serious injuries, he could only nod and watch her leave quickly. Roar! A furious roar rang out as Swallow Cloud's clone appeared. It pounced forward and pinned down a cultivator. It opened its mouth wide and bit down. A cracking sound rang out as the bones of the cultivator were broken. The cultivator who was pinned down by Swallow Cloud instantly died. Sacred Beast. The leader of the immortal sage middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. The sect master of the Five Venoms sect guessed that the owner of the black market might be at the ghost Dr. Fengjiu's place. Therefore, they only came today to test the strength of the Heavenly Pill House. After all, They had never fought with the ghost Dr. Fengjiu in the past. Their understanding of her came from rumors. Now, the ghost Dr. Fengjiu had yet to appear, but a sacred beast had appeared. As far as they knew, the ghost Dr. Fengjiu had another contracted beast. It was an ancient mythical beast, the fire phoenix, and its battle prowess was even more astonishing. Thinking of this, he looked towards the heavenly elixir building. Fengjiu still hadn't appeared. What is she doing? Could it be that he was looking down on them? So he didn't make a move? Where's your master? Call her out. The middle-aged man clasped his hands behind his back and shouted in a deep voice. The pressure of a celestial sage instantly gushed forward. The pressure was like a wind blade that rippled outwards, stirring up dust on the ground. Tunyon leaped in front of Lung Hua and the others. It twisted its neck and opened its mouth to reveal its sharp fangs. It stared at the middle-aged man with bloodthirsty eyes and growled, "You want to see my master?" As the voice carrying the might of a sacred beast fell, it flew up and attacked the middle-aged man. At the same time, it said to Lung Hua and the others, "I'll leave the rest to you guys. Kill." Chapter 2169. The people in front were fighting. Tunyon was dealing with the celestial sage, while Lung Hua and the others were dealing with the other cultivators. Yang Xiao was watching the situation from inside the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Seeing the two sides fighting, she couldn't help but feel worried. At this moment, a cultivator caught a glimpse of the figure hiding inside the door. Killing intent flashed in his eyes, and he swung the sword in his hand, sending a ray of sword chi towards Yang Xiao. The killing intent caused Yang Xiao to cry out in fright. She fell to the ground, and the sword chi flew past her head, causing her to break out in cold sweat. You want to kill me?" Her face was filled with astonishment as she stared at the cultivator with her round eyes. She was only in her teens and was a woman. Her strength couldn't compare to theirs. This cultivator was a peak nascent soul cultivator, yet he wanted to kill her? He was truly shameless. She felt that this cultivator was truly shameless. She was so angry that she forgot about her fear. Her hands were tightly clenched into fists as she angrily stared at the cultivator who was stopped by a phoenix guard. She clenched her teeth and took out her heavy bow. She hid in the doorway and drew the heavy bow in her hand, aiming at the cultivator who had attacked her just now. Because he was fighting with one of the phoenix guards, the two of them were constantly moving. She drew her heavy bow and aimed at the cultivator, but she was also worried that she would injure the phoenix guard. Thus, the bow and arrow moved along with the two of them. When she found an opportunity, joy appeared on her face, and she immediately let go. Whoosh! With a whoosh, the arrow flew out. However, at the same time, the cultivator dodged the phoenix guard's attack and also dodged the arrow. Just as Yang Xiao was feeling vexed, she opened her mouth wide in astonishment. This was because even though the arrow did not hit the person she wanted to shoot, it hit a cultivator who was fighting with another phoenix guard behind that person. With a whoosh, the arrow pierced through his back. That cultivator froze. When he lowered his head to look at the arrow that had pierced through his back, his eyes widened in unwillingness. He did not even have the chance to turn his head back because the phoenix guard had swung his sword and cut off his head. Yang Xiao gulped when he saw this. He tightened his grip on his heavy bow. Would she have nightmares if she saw this bloody scene at night? Suppressing the fear in her heart, she once again drew her heavy bow and aimed at that person. This time, she must hit the target. She drew the heavy bow, took aim, and released the arrow again. Because this was a magic tool, and the strength of this heavy bow was very great, the force of the arrow was naturally great. She was hiding inside and aiming at the cultivators outside. Logically speaking, she should be able to hit the target without any interference. But this time she missed again. This time, it hit another cultivator. Yang Xiao wiped off his cold sweat as he watched the arrow graze past the phoenix guard and hit another cultivator's shoulder. If she accidentally hurt the phoenix guard, it would be terrible. Although one of the two arrows was killed and the other was injured, it still attracted the attention of some cultivators. They found an opportunity to approach the door of the Heavenly Pill building and wanted to attack Yang Xiao. Lung Hua, who noticed this scene, quickly retreated after killing a cultivator and came in front of Yang Xiao, to block a cultivator who was attacking her. Go inside. Don't come out. Chapter 2170. Yang Xiao, was startled by Lung Hua's shout. She held her bow and arrow and retreated step by step, not daring to cause trouble for him. The middle-aged man looked at the people of the Heavenly Pill House who were injured by his swords. After so long, they still had the ability to fight. There were no signs of the poison at all. He couldn't help but be surprised and frown. The weapons of the 5 poisons were all poisonous. Why were these people not showing any signs of being poisoned after being injured by their poison weapons? Could it be that they had impenetrable bodies? Thinking of this, he had a flash of inspiration. That's right, their master was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. Since they were under Fengjiu, perhaps Fengjiu had already planned to give them some antidote. It seemed that ordinary poisons couldn't do anything to them. While the people here were fighting outside the 100 Rivers City, a travel-worn Guanxilin wearing a black robe was returning. After he finished his mission, he left the mercenary group and came to the 100 Rivers City. He was going to see his sister and give her the gift he had brought for her on this trip. As soon as he entered the city and saw the prosperity of the 100 Rivers City, he revealed a smile. This place was really good. It was the most suitable place for Fengjiu to set up a residence. He didn't stop all the way to West Street. As soon as he stepped into West Street, he felt an unusual movement in the air. He walked forward and saw a lot of people in front of him. He was slightly surprised. He pulled a man who was passing by and asked, "Big brother, what's going on in front?" The man was a little annoyed that he was suddenly pulled back by someone. He was about to curse, but when he turned around and saw the muscular man with a long saber in his hand, he was shocked by the man's aura. He was about to curse, but he quickly changed the topic and said, "Something happened to the Heavenly Pill Building. A group of people are attacking the people of the Heavenly Pill Building. I heard that the fight is very intense." Hearing this, Guanxilin's face darkened and a murderous aura emanated from his body. The man who was being held back by him turned pale and his legs trembled. Just as he was about to say something, Guanxilin released him and strode forward. The surrounding people retreated far away. Guanxilin walked forward from the back. He walked past the crowd and saw Lung Hua and the others fighting fiercely with a group of people. He saw that Lung Hua and the others were all injured, and even the cloud-swallowing beast had come out to fight. However, he didn't see his sister Fengjiu. Although he felt strange, he didn't think too much about it. Immediately, he activated the profound qi in his body and waved the large saber in his hand. As he rushed forward, he quickly and fiercely slashed at a cultivator. Whoosh! Whoosh! A sharp gust of wind whistled through the air. With a loud shout, the broadsword swung down. At the same time, a blood-curdling scream rang out, and dazzling blood splattered out. A bloody head rolled on the ground. The pair of eyes were still wide open, as if he had died with his eyes wide open. It looked very frightening. This sudden scene also startled both sides. After a short battle, they stopped. "Who are you? How dare you meddle in our affairs?" The leader of the Celestial Saints stared at the black-robed man, who suddenly appeared and shouted. Chapter 2171. Hearing this, the middle-aged man from the Celestial Sage's face darkened. His body exuded an intimidating aura. He stared at the black-robed man with a long saber, and his face turned serious. He's a Xian Qi martial god. Xian Qi cultivators focused on martial techniques and strength. Their cultivation was slow, and they were usually not a match for spirit cultivators. However, this man, who was only in his 20s, was already a Xian Qi martial god. It must be known that an order of Xian Qi levels from bottom to top were Xian martial artist, martial master, great martial master, martial ancestor, martial monarch, martial revered, martial saint, and martial god. Corresponding to spiritual Qi cultivation, spiritual cultivator cultivation levels were spiritual practitioner, spiritual master, great spiritual master, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, flying immortal, and immortal sage. With Xian Qi God strength, he was definitely qualified to fight with him. However, he did not know how strong this man was. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man from the celestial sage frowned slightly. The people from the heavenly pill house were already difficult to deal with, and now this man had appeared. Moreover, Feng Jiu had not appeared yet. Who knew what he was up to? Brother Guan. Leng Hua smiled when he saw him. Are you okay? Guan Shilin turned his head to look at him. He saw that there were several wounds on his body, and blood had dyed his robe red. He could not help but frown. His sharp eyes were filled with murderous intent as he swept his gaze over the cultivators. Swallow Cloud, delay him. Wait for me to kill these people, and then I'll kill that bastard. Guan Shilin's cold voice rang out. In the next moment, he swung his saber. He was extremely fast, and every move he made was a martial god. Even if the cultivators were prepared, it was difficult for them to fight against a cultivator who was stronger than them. Two of them could not dodge in time and were killed instantly. Guan Shilin's bravery made the cultivators from the Five Venoms sect tremble in fear. They could not help but retreat as they looked at the middle-aged man who was their leader. Today, they were only here to check out the situation. Were they going to keep fighting like this? The people they brought today were already considered strong, but they did not expect that Guan Shilin, who had appeared out of nowhere, to be so strong before Feng Jiu appeared. If they continued fighting, they were afraid that they would all die here. I want to fight you. Let's see what skills you have. The celestial sage said, but Swallow Cloud blocked him. When Guan Shilin, who had just killed 2 Five Venom sect cultivators, heard those words, he couldn't help but let out a cold snort. He looked at the man and said, since you want to die, your grandpa Guan will fulfill your wish. Tun Yun, you, and Leng Hua go deal with those lackeys. Leave this bastard to me. He waved a large blade in his hand and slashed towards the middle-aged man. A powerful, profound energy aura rushed out with a whoosh as sharp as a sharp blade. The middle-aged man hurriedly used the long sword in his hand to block. After withdrawing the saber aura, he raised his chi, and the long sword reflected a visible sword chi of you. A murderous aura burst out from the middle-aged man's body. He swung his sword to meet Guan Shilin's saber. When the saber and the sword collided, a loud clanging sound was heard. The Xian Qi and spiritual Qi clashed against each other, causing sparks to fly. Chapter 2172. On the other side, in the Sky Sun sect, the atmosphere was tense. Ever since they found out that the young man in front of them was the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, their expressions changed again and again. No one knew what they were thinking. In the middle, by Qing Sheng, who was paralyzed on the ground, sat there in a daze after Feng Jiu left a mark on her body. The Medicine Peak Lord's eyes were filled with anger after his shock. You did it on purpose, didn't you? You didn't say that you were the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu. If you said that you were the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, He was so angry that his face turned red, feeling like he had been deceived. He thought that he had taken advantage of the other party, but who knew that it was this young man who had taken advantage of him? He had clearly come prepared. He had clearly made up his mind to cheat him of his 7-star spiritual herb. Truly, truly shameless to the extreme. This ghost, Dr. Feng Jiu, was so shameless. Peak Lord Yi, your words are so unreasonable. Feng Jiu glanced at him and said, from the beginning to the end, you didn't ask who I was? Besides, if I said that I was Feng Jiu, you wouldn't dare to compete with me? Speaking up to this point, her lips curled into a faint smile. Our competition was open and above board. There were no tricks. If I lost today, I definitely wouldn't have any objections. You're clearly, He couldn't speak, only feeling a fire burning in his chest. Could it be that after knowing that she was the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, he didn't dare to compete with her? He knew very well that even if he knew beforehand, he wouldn't admit defeat to her, much less think that he would lose to her. But now, this situation, once he thought about how he had lost that 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb, his heart ached, especially when he felt that he had been cheated by this ghost, Dr. Feng Jiu. He felt even more indignant. When he lost earlier, it was one thing if he didn't know that she was the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, But now that he knew that she was the ghost Dr. Fungio, how could he not understand that she had long dug a hole for him to jump into? I see that it's getting late. Peak Lord Yi, let's go dig for herbs. Fungio smiled as she looked at the furious Peak Lord of Medicine. Hearing this, Peak Lord Yao's body stiffened. Dig herbs. That's right, from the moment he had lost to this Fungio, that 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb was no longer his thinking of this. He felt a burst of pain in his heart and couldn't help but look at Feng 9 angrily. That 7-star spiritual grass is one of the main ingredients of the 7th level detoxification pill. You can't refine a 7th level detoxification pill. So what's the use of taking my 7-star spiritual grass? Heh. Fungio chuckled. Her eyes narrowed as she beamed. That's already my 7-star spiritual herb, Peak Lord Yi. How you want to deal with it is none of your business. Hearing this, his face stiffened and his body trembled slightly. His 7-star spiritual grass. He only had a 7-star spiritual grass that was 500 years old. He had never thought that he would lose to this kid. No, this little girl. But now he had lost, and he had lost in such an unsightly manner. The sect master watched from the side, coughed lightly, and said, "All right, old man Yi, bring little friend Feng to dig up your 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb. This was the bet we agreed on before the competition, so you must accept your loss. Hurry up." Chapter 2173. Fengjiu narrowed her eyes and smiled. She glanced at Bai Qingsheng, who was sitting on the ground, and walked up to her. "Did you hear what I said just now? You have 3 months. Remember to look for me when you're done. If I don't see you at the Heavenly Pill Dispensary in 3 months, I'll go to your Bai family." Bai Qingsheng raised her head and looked at her. She gritted her teeth and said, "I know. I'll definitely be there in 3 months. You should call me Master." Fengjiu narrowed her eyes, and her expression was a little lazy. Hearing this, Bai Qingsheng lowered her eyes and lowered her head. "Yes, Master. Good girl." Fengjiu smiled with satisfaction. She reached out and patted her head. She glanced at Song Ming and was about to follow Peak Master Yi to dig for spiritual herbs. However, she saw Peak Master Yi standing in front of her alchemy furnace and staring blankly. Fengjiu walked up and glanced at her alchemy furnace. She had only taken out the pills, but did not take the alchemy furnace. She wanted to collect it when she came over. Who knew that Peak Master Yi would be interested in it? She smiled and waved her sleeve to put away the alchemy furnace. She looked at Peak Master Yi and said, "It's getting late. Peak Master Yi, let's go." Your alchemy furnace." Peak Master Yi looked at her in shock. "Your alchemy furnace. My alchemy furnace is more durable." She smiled and said, "No, your alchemy furnace, this alchemy furnace is. Yes, it's used by me for alchemy. I'm not selling this furnace." She smiled and narrowed her eyes. "I saw just now. It looked like the Shinong furnace." He muttered and his eyes fell on Fengjiu. It's just a small broken furnace I picked up on the road. It's better than ordinary alchemy furnaces." Fengjiu laughed and looked at Peak Master Yi, who was in a daze. She said, "Peak Master Yi, let's get down to business. Don't you think so?" The corners of Song Ming's mouth twitched as he glanced at Fengjiu. That's right. Digging up someone else's carefully maintained 500-year-old spiritual herb was the proper thing to do. She was probably the only one who could do such a proper thing. Peak Lord Yi took a deep look at Fengjiu before clasping his hands behind his back. "Let's go." This ghost Dr. Fengjiu was not a normal person. Not only was he an abnormal alchemy genius, he also seemed to have a lot of treasures on him. Just like the Aurora teleportation scroll and the small cauldron. Don't think that his old eyes couldn't see clearly. That cauldron was clearly the ancient divine cauldron, the Shinnon cauldron. How could such a heavenly treasure fall into her hands? As he walked, he thought about it. He really couldn't understand how that brat. No, that girl's luck was so heaven-defying. Song Ming and Fengjiu walked a few steps behind Peak Lord Yi. Looking at the figure in front of them, Song Ming whispered to Fengjiu beside him, "This is also my first time coming to Peak Lord Ye's cave. I heard that there's a spiritual field next to his cave. There are all kinds of spiritual herbs that Peak Lord Yi personally cultivated there. Some of them are extremely rare outside and have been around for a certain age. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and the corners of his mouth hooked up, revealing a wicked smile. Oh, then I really have to take a look. I love medicine fields the most, especially medicine fields that have rare and precious herbs planted in them. Chapter 2174. The two of them followed Peak Lordy. After entering, they saw that there was a barrier in addition to formations. Fengjiu, who was walking slowly, was slightly surprised. Just how much did Peak Lordy treasure his spirit herbs? This place was heavily guarded, as if it was guarding against thieves. We're here. Peak Lordy stopped in front of a medicinal field. He looked at Fengjiu and pointed at the field, saying, "Go in and dig it yourself. But I have to tell you first, don't break this old man's other spirit herbs. Otherwise, this old man will make you pay." Okay. Fengjiu smiled and told Song Ming to wait for her outside the medicinal field. Then she walked in. Peak Lord, you didn't tell her which spirit herb was the 7-star spirit herb. You told her to find it herself in this medicinal field. However, this wasn't difficult for her at all. Peak Lord Yi stood to the side with his hands behind his back. Out of the corner of his eye, he looked at the figure walking in the medicinal field. He thought to himself, this Fengjiu should be able to find the 7-star spirit herb in this medicinal field, right? That's right. How could someone who can refine a level 6 medicinal pill not recognize the 7-star spirit herb? She probably recognized all the spirit herbs in this medicinal field. Just as he was thinking, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. This person is like a bandit. She wouldn't take a fancy to my other spirit herbs, right? Thinking of this, his expression couldn't help but become nervous. He turned around and stared nervously at the figure walking in the medicinal field. Seeing her looking at each spirit herb like that, his heart was in his throat. This Fengjiu was as cunning as a fox. If she really took a fancy to something, he was afraid that she would play some tricks and dig a hole for him. After thinking about it, he hurriedly said, "Don't walk around randomly. The 7-star spirit herb is on your left. The one in the innermost part is 500 years old. Quickly dig it up and leave." Peak Lord Yi, I didn't expect your medicinal field to have so many varieties. They're all rare spirit herbs outside, and they're all quite old. You found them and transplanted them here, right? Fengjiu looked at the nervous Peak Lord Yi and asked with a smile, "Why do you care where this old man got these spirit herbs from? Anyway, where they came from has nothing to do with you. Quickly dig up that 7-star spirit herb and leave. This old man has a headache whenever he sees you," he said with a face of disgust. Fengjiu heard this and smiled. "Fengjiu, I'll leave right. I won't stay." She would come back in the future. She arrived in front of the 500-year-old 7-star spirit grass and carefully dug out its roots and transplanted them into her space. Then she walked out and said to Peak Lord Yi, "Peak Lord Yi, I'll be leaving first. I'll come back later if I have the chance. Next, don't come back in the future. Don't ever come back again." Seeing his guarded face, Fengjiu couldn't help but chuckle. There's still a long way to go. Who knows what will happen in the future? You also know that I have the Aurora transfer scroll. It's convenient for me to go anywhere. As soon as she finished speaking, Peak Lord Ye's face turned ashen. He stepped forward and pushed the two people out. Go, go, go. Don't come back in the future. Don't ever come back again. This old man is scared of you, okay? Today, if this news spreads to the other 3 sects, this old man won't be able to go out and see anyone," he angrily said. After pushing the 2 people out, he clasped his hands behind his back and returned to his cave. Chapter 2175. It's still early. Why don't you come to my place for a drink before you leave? Song Ming said. He felt that the sky was not completely dark yet, and it was not difficult for her to go. On the contrary, once she left, it would be a long time before they could meet again. Fengjiu looked at the sky and said, "I'd better go back first. I'm worried that something will happen over there." She looked at him and said with a smile, "When you go down the mountain, call them and have a few drinks at my place. I won't stay for long today." All right. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and now that she was leaving again, he was reluctant to part with her. However, When he remembered that he had seen her again, and the other three hadn't even seen their faces, he felt relieved and said with a smile, "Then you can go back. After a while, I'll definitely call the three of them over." Fengjiu took out the Aurora teleportation scroll and opened it in her palm. With a thought, she disappeared in the next moment. Looking at Fengjiu, who disappeared in front of him, Songming couldn't help but praise, "What a good treasure." No wonder Bai Qingsheng even sacrificed herself. Thinking about how Fengjiu had caused so many things in the 2 days since she came to the Sky Sun sect, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile and walk down the mountain. On the other side, in 100 River City, in front of the Heavenly Pill building, corpses were strewn all over the ground. The splattered scarlet blood and the strong, pungent smell of blood made people feel nauseous, especially when some of the corpses even revealed their internal organs and flowed all over the ground. After a fierce battle, there weren't many people left from the Five Venoms sect. Even the middle-aged man from the Celestial Sage sect was injured by Guan Shilin. One of his arms had been cut off at the shoulder, and fresh blood kept flowing down. It was a ghastly sight. Seeing that there weren't many of his people left, the middle-aged man from the Celestial Sage sect took advantage of the gap between gasping for breath and quickly retreated. At the same time, he shouted unwillingly, "Retreat!" His figure was retreating, but his eyes were still staring fiercely at Guan Shilin. "I will definitely avenge this broken arm. Guan Shilin, just you wait." The words left behind by that person could be heard from afar. Guan Shilin didn't chase after him. Instead, he turned around and looked at Leng Hua and the others. "How are you guys? Is everything all right?" Leng Hua and Du Fan were about to speak when they heard Yang Xiao Er's exclamation. Oh no, he keeps vomiting blood. I can't stop the bleeding." Hearing this, the people outside quickly rushed in. They saw Gu Mo, one of the 8 captains of the Phoenix Guards, lying on the ground, vomiting blood. His face was pale, and there was a broken sword in his chest. His aura was so weak that it seemed like he would die at any moment. Everyone was shocked. Guemo! Guemo! Everyone shouted as they surrounded him. Luo Yu took out a medicinal pill for him to consume, but was stopped by Fan Lin. "You can't eat it. The sword that pierced his heart is extremely poisonous. Now, no medicine can save him. It will only make him die faster." Fan Lin grabbed Luo Yu's hand that was about to stuff the medicinal pill into Gumo's mouth and said, "Carry him in first. If Master can make it back in time, there might be a way to save him." Upon hearing this, Guan Shilin finally understood what was going on. No wonder Xiao Jiao didn't appear even after they fought outside for so long. It turned out that she wasn't in the Heavenly Pill House. Chapter 2176. At this time, Fengjiu had just entered 100 River City. She walked all the way to the Heavenly Pill Dispensary on the inner street of the West City. However, as soon as she entered the West City, she smelled a faint smell of blood in the air. Why was there the smell of blood? And why was it in the air? She was puzzled and worried, so she quickened her pace and walked forward. Along the way, she heard the people on the street talking. Many people have died. Why does the Heavenly Pill Dispensary always provoke these people? Many people must have died. The fight was so fierce, and both sides are so powerful. Look at how long the Heavenly Pill Dispensary has been open. They often do these things. In my opinion, today's incident won't be the last time. There will definitely be more in the future. The days are long. Everyone just wait and see. That's why people are afraid of being famous, and pigs are afraid of being fat. If you're in the limelight, it's easy to get into trouble. If you don't become a thorn in the side of others, you'll become enemies with others. This is the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. Some people just can't bear to see others doing well. If you don't provoke them, they will provoke you. Hearing this, her heart sank. Many people had died. Were they from the Heavenly Pill Dispensary? She should have known that the people who dared to go against the black market must be powerful. She did not expect them to cause such a big commotion. Moreover, it happened when she was not around. On the street where the lights were just lit, she was not in the mood to watch. She quickly walked forward until she came to the front door of the Heavenly Pill Dispensary. She saw the closed door and the bloodstains on the ground that had not been cleaned up in time. Master. Two Phoenix guards appeared outside the door. When they saw her return, they were happy and excited. Master, you're finally back. Guillermo is injured, seriously injured. Hearing this, she pursed her lips slightly and walked forward quickly. She pushed the door open and went straight to the backyard. Master, Master, Master. When the injured Phoenix guards saw her return, they all showed up and bowed. In the backyard, Lung Hua and the others were anxious. Suddenly, they heard voices and could not help but be happy. They quickly walked out to take a look. Master, you're finally back. How is Guillermo? Fengjiu looked at Lung Hua and the others and asked. It's highly toxic. The knife stabbed into his chest. Fan Lin didn't dare to pull out the knife. He said that he was afraid that it would damage his heart meridian and cause him to bleed to death. Lung Hua quickly explained the situation. How are the others? She asked again and quickly walked in. She was surprised to see her brother here as well. Brother, when did you come? Other than the two Phoenix guards who died, the others were also injured, but they weren't as badly injured as Guillermo, Lung Hua said. Seeing that it was her, Guan Shilin nodded. I just arrived not long ago. As soon as I arrived, I saw someone attacking Lung Hua and the others. Master, the five Venom sect sent a celestial sage, as well as some fairy realm and nascent soul pinnacle stage experts. Fortunately, Big Brother Guan came to help. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded. I'll take a look at Guillermo first. We'll talk about the rest later. She came to the bedside and looked at Guillermo, whose face was pale but was still awake. She asked, is he still conscious? And Master, Guillermo's voice was weak. His breathing was so weak that it seemed like it was about to break. All right, don't talk for now. She put her hand on his wrist and checked his condition. Chapter 2177. Prepare water for me. Everyone else, leave first. Fan Lin, stay behind. She instructed as she took out a silver needle from her space. Yes, everyone replied. Other than Fan Lin, everyone else left first. Only Lung Hua came in with water. Under Fengjiu's instructions, Fan Lin used a pair of scissors to cut open the clothes around the wound. When he saw that the wound on his chest had already swollen and turned black, he couldn't help but look at his master. Fengjiu looked at the wound and frowned. She reached out to feel the surrounding acupuncture points and said to Guillermo, I will help you pull out the broken sword. Bear with it. It'll be very painful. Guillermo nodded slightly. His lips moved slightly as he replied weakly, Okay. Fengjiu wrapped the broken sword with a piece of cloth and pulled it out forcefully. With a whoosh, blood spurted out and dyed Fengjiu's hand red. She didn't stop. Instead, she quickly pierced the acupuncture points around the wound with silver needles to stop the bleeding. Fan Lin was originally shocked when he saw the blood gushing out of the wound. However, when he saw that the blood stopped flowing after his master pierced the needles, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Cut a piece of ginseng for him to hold. Then, clean up the blood around the wound. I want to remove the flesh around it. Fengjiu instructed as she took out a small knife and prepared to do it. Fan Lin did as she said. After cleaning up, he retreated to the side. After Fengjiu cleaned her hands, she disinfected the small knife in her hand with fire. Only then did she carefully remove the rotten flesh on the swollen wound bit by bit. As soon as the broken sword was pulled out, Guillermo, who was hanging by a thread, let out a muffled groan. If it wasn't for the 1,000-year-old ginseng in his mouth, he would have fainted from the lack of breath. After she cleaned up the rotten flesh around the wound, she secretly activated the green lotus aura in her body. A faint green light slowly shone from her palm and slowly healed the wound around his heart. Fan Lin's heart skipped a beat when he saw this scene. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the wound that was healing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The deep wound that was originally open was healing bit by bit in front of him. When the last bit of the wound healed, not a single scar was left behind. His heart was beating wildly as he looked at his master in shock. This kind of ability was simply heaven-defying. This was something that he had never dared to imagine or believe would happen. Healing the wound in an instant, This kind of ability could bring someone back to life in many cases. His expression was solemn. His master had displayed such an ability in front of him without any hesitation because she had absolute trust in him. If the outside world knew about his master's ability, he was afraid that such a heaven-defying ability would lead to a fatal disaster for her. I'll suppress the poison in his body for the time being. I'll only be able to detoxify the poison in his body after I refine a 7th-grade antidote. Feng Jiu said to Fan Lin, he'll be fine for the next few days. However, you still have to take care of him. Don't let anything happen to him. Master, is the poison in Gumo's body the same as the poison in the black market master's body? He guessed that the two people's situations were somewhat similar. Chapter 2178. An expert of the 5 Venoms sect whose strength is at the level of a mortal sage. That sword was originally aimed at Gumo, but due to a free combination of factors, it hit Gumo. Gumo forcefully broke the sword. However, the injury was close to his heart meridian. Moreover, I can't cure the poison on the sword. As Fan Lin spoke, he thought of the middle-aged man and said, fortunately, Shi Lin came at that time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be his match. Even Tun Yun could only delay him. Moreover, it would be impossible to kill him. However, that person's arm was cut off by Shi Lin. Speaking of this, his expression became serious. I think the people of the 5 Venoms sect won't let this matter rest, whether it's the owner of the black market or our heavenly pill building. Moreover, if most of their people are at the celestial sage level, it'll be difficult for us to deal with them. Hearing this, Feng Jiu pondered for a moment. I'll discuss this matter with them. As she spoke, she glanced at Guillemot on the bed and said, you watch over here. I'll go to the front. Fan Lin nodded. After watching her leave, he opened the window to disperse the smell of blood in the room. Outside, Guan Shilin and the others who were waiting went up to her when they saw her coming out. Luo Yu and the others couldn't help but ask, Master, how is Guillemot? Is he still alive? It was difficult to hide the worry in his voice. He's still alive, but he's not out of danger yet. As Feng Jiu spoke, she glanced at them and saw that they were also covered with wounds of various sizes. She said, the people of the 5 Venoms sect are experts in using poison. Even if you've taken the antidote pill, you can't be careless. As she spoke, she shook her head and sighed softly. Fortunately, the poison you've been poisoned with is not the same as Gumo's. Otherwise, it'd be troublesome. Thinking about it, even if the poison was overbearing, it wouldn't be easy to concoct such a strong poison. Otherwise, none of them would have been able to escape. We're all fine. Our injuries are fine, but Guillemot. Wait for me to concoct the 7th-level antidote pill. His poison is the same as that of the owner of the black market. Currently, only 7th-grade antidote pills can cure their poison, Feng Jiu said, thinking about how high the success rate of this batch of pills was. Hearing this, Guan Shilin asked, then when are you going to start concocting pills? 7th-level medicinal pill? Are you confident? Make some preparations tonight. We'll refine the pills tomorrow. As she spoke, she looked at them and said, I am worried that if I concoct pills, I will attract the attention of the people from the 5 Venoms sect. Therefore, I am preparing to go to another place tomorrow to concoct 7th-tier medicinal pills. After I have finished concocting the medicinal pills, I will come back. During this period of time, all of you must be vigilant at all times. After all, the people from the 5 Venoms sect may come again in the near future. You want to go somewhere else to refine it. Guan Shilin was a little confused. Seeing this, Feng Jiu smiled and said, it's a long story. Some time ago, I obtained a treasure called the Aurora Teleportation Scroll. It can allow me to go anywhere in an instant. Oh, there's such a treasure? Guan Shilin's eyes lit up and he nodded. That's good. Then find a safe place to concoct the pills. As for here, you don't have to worry. I will help you guard it. Chapter 2179. As she spoke, Feng Jiu looked at everyone and asked, has Mo-chun come recently? Hearing this, everyone was startled for a moment. They all thought of the same thing and looked at each other. In the end, Lang Hua opened his mouth and said, Master, there's something I've always forgotten to say. HM? She raised her eyebrows slightly. What is it? Actually, before this, there was someone who came to seek medical treatment. However, the situation was like this. Leng Hua briefly explained the matter of the person brought by Murong Yixien. In the end, he said, after that, due to the matter with the black market owner and the fact that they didn't come again, this matter. He had forgotten about it. Hearing this, Feng Jiu nodded. There's no need to pay attention to this matter. Just take care of the matters at hand. Yes, everyone responded. Xiao Jiu Guan Shilin called out to her. He wanted to take out the gift he brought for her, but then he remembered that she still had matters to attend to and probably wasn't in the mood. Thus, when she looked over, he said, don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's fine as long as you did your best. He knew that level 7 medicinal pills were not easy to refine. However, at this time, she was at a refined level 7 medicinal pills to save the black market master in Guillemot. He was a bit worried. The more anxious she was, the easier it was for her to make a mistake. HM, I know. She smiled slightly and said to them, send Guillemot back to the Feng Manor. I'll go to the Ling Manor first to see that black uncle. When an old man from the black market who had just walked in heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. His wise and powerful master had actually become a black uncle in the eyes of this little girl. Ghost Doctor. The old man bowed to Feng Jiu. Seeing her look over, he said, I heard that something happened here, so I came to take a look. It's already over. Feng Jiu looked at the old man and said, the people from the Five Poison sect are indeed powerful. They even injured my people to this extent. Look. She looked towards Leng Hua and the others, her expression very obvious. Seeing this, an apologetic look appeared on the old man's face. We've implicated you. He cupped his hands and bowed to everyone. Leng Hua and the others didn't say anything. How has your master been these 2 days? Did you do as I asked? Feng Jiu asked and did not say anything else. Ever since she took over the role of the black market master, she knew that this day would come. The enemies of the black market would also become her enemies and seek her out. Yes, his condition hasn't worsened, but he hasn't woken up either, so we're all a little worried. I'll go back with you to take a look, she said, and after saying a few words to Leng Hua and the others, she left through the back door with the old man. Not long after Feng Jiu went to the Ling Mansion, Imochen also came to the Heavenly Dan building. Even though the sky was already dark, the smell of blood outside still hadn't completely dissipated. In particular, the traces left behind by the fierce battle were very clear. He stepped into the Heavenly Dan building and saw Leng Hua inside. He said apologetically, I've been cultivating in seclusion for a while, and only came out today. It was also at this time that I found out about the Heavenly Dan building. He felt apologetic. He thought that there wasn't much to do recently, and there were so many people guarding the Heavenly Dan building, so he went to cultivate. He didn't expect so many things to happen during this period of time, so he felt apologetic. He also promised Feng Jiu that he would help her look after the Heavenly Dan building, but now he had broken his promise. Chapter 2180. Leng Hua said warmly. He looked at Imo Chun and said, however, Master asked about Sir Immortal just now. Where's she? Imo Chun asked. Master has already returned to the residence. However, she has some matters to attend to, so I'm afraid she won't have time to see Sir Immortal. Sir Immortal? You can come back in a few days. Hearing this, Imo Chun asked, is she busy with the matter of the owner of the black market? Yes. Leng Hua was slightly surprised that he knew about this matter, but he still nodded. He did not say anything more. He only said, if that's the case, then I'll come back in a few days. With that, he turned and left. On the other side, after Feng Jiu went to the Ling residence to see the owner of the black market, she prepared all the medicinal ingredients she needed. Only then did she open the Aurora transmission scroll and look carefully from above to find a suitable place to refine pills. She looked from above, but did not find a suitable place. Thus, she put away the Aurora transmission scroll. After entering her room, she directly entered the space. When it came to refining pills, where could there be a better place than her space? There was no one to disturb her inside, and it was a world of its own. Moreover, the spiritual energy was dense. However, seventh-level pills were not so easy to refine. Although she had studied it for some time, the main ingredients were limited. She could not afford to fail. At the same time, in one of the bases of the Five Venoms sect, the middle-aged man whose arm had been cut off by Guan Shilin came to the main hall with a pale face. He respectfully knelt on one knee and lowered his head. "Sect Master, I failed in my duty." Even he did not expect that he would lose an arm on a trip to the Heavenly Pill Building. With his strength as a celestial sage, his arm was cut off just like that. How hateful. Looking at the kneeling middle-aged man, the person on the main seat who was wearing a mask narrowed his eyes. "Was your arm cut off by Fengjiu, the ghost doctor?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man lowered his head even more. "Sect Master, it was not Fengjiu, the ghost doctor, but a man named Guan Shilin. When this subordinate went to the Heavenly Pill Building today, that Fengjiu did not even show his face." "Oh." The main seat's voice was slightly drawn out, a little surprised, but in the blink of an eye, he was relieved. "It is said that this ghost, Dr. Fengjiu, is surrounded by capable people. However, your strength is not weak either. For your arm to be chopped off, you must have underestimated your opponent." The middle-aged man lowered his head, gritted his teeth, and said, "Sovereign, this Guan Shilin is actually a black tortoise god." Hearing this, the heart of the main seat moved. "Martial god level? He's actually a mystic?" "Yes, I've followed you for many years, but I never thought that I would be defeated by a mystic. I can't take this lying down. Please seek justice for me, Sect Master." He kowtowed heavily because he knew that if he wanted to deal with Guan Shilin, Fengjiu, and the others, he could only ask the Sect Master to personally take action. Otherwise, it would be useless no matter who went. His hand would definitely not be chopped off like this. Whether it was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, or Guan Shilin, or the owner of the black market, as long as there was a chance, he would not let any of them go. Chapter 2181. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was overjoyed. "Yes. Thank you, Sect Master. This subordinate wishes Sect Master success." The 10,000 poison hands gathered all the poisons in the world. It was a technique that only the Sect Master of the 5 poison sect practiced. If this technique was mastered, no antidote would have any effect. Even if that person was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, he wouldn't be able to find a way to break the 10,000 poison hands. He would endure it for the time being. Once the Sect Master mastered the poison technique, it would be their time of death. On the other side, 100 Rivers City's Nailin family. I heard that the Heavenly Pill Building provoked a lot of enemies again. This time, they seem to have provoked the 5 poison sect. The Nailin family had looked at his eldest son sitting in the hall and asked, but who knew that he would only focus on drinking tea and wouldn't even respond. Nailin and Mo, Chan held the cup lid and gently scraped the tea as if he didn't hear anything. No one knew what he was thinking. Nailin Zian, next to him, also had an absent-minded expression. The 2 brothers didn't even listen to what he was saying. Seeing this, the Nailin family head's face sank. He slammed his hand on the table and asked loudly with his eyes wide open, "What's going on with you 2 brothers? Didn't you hear me ask you something? Why are you both so absent-minded?" Hearing this, Nailin Machin and Nailin Zian both raised their heads to look. The former smiled and glanced at Nailin Zian, but Nailin Zian glanced at them and sighed softly. "Father, you don't have to worry about this matter. Even if the Heavenly Pill Building offended someone, you can't help them, right? It's useless to ask so much and talk so much." His voice paused, and his face was full of worry. He glanced at his elder brother. "If I was as strong as Big Brother, I wouldn't be sitting here worrying." Nailin family's head was stunned when he heard this. "What are you talking about? What are you worrying about? I haven't even talked about you yet. Recently, you've been running to the Feng Manor every few days. Tell me honestly, what have you been doing?" Hearing this, Emo Chun narrowed his eyes and glanced at Nailin Zian. "Running to the Feng Manor every few days? Are you really interested in Lung Shuang? It seems like you didn't take my words to heart." "Brother, you can't say that." Before Nailin Zian finished speaking, he was interrupted. Bang! What's going on? What do you mean by having feelings for Lung Shuang? You little bastard, did you take a fancy to that black-clothed woman by Feng Jiu's side? Lung Shuang, are you tired of living? How dare you have designs on our people? I think you've been living too comfortably recently, so you want to suffer a little, right? Nayland family's patriarch heavily slammed his palm on the table. He stood up angrily and pointed at his second son, cursing loudly. Big brother. Nayland Zian looked at Mo Chun, hoping that he would help say something. Don't look at me. There's nothing I can do. After taking a sip of tea, he put down the teacup and stood up. He raised his hand and patted his robe, coldly saying, I've only been in seclusion for a while, and there's been a lot of trouble. Especially when I didn't go into seclusion, nothing happened. Once I went into seclusion, I broke my promise to Feng Jiu. Chapter 2182. Looking at his elder brother leaving, Nayland Zian was slightly startled. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He slowly lowered his eyes and hid the complicated look in his eyes. After a long time, he stood up and said to his father, Father, I'll go back first. I'm going to the back of the mountain to cultivate in seclusion. Don't look for me for a while. Watching his two sons leave one after another, the Nayland family head couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Forget it, I don't care anymore. You can deal with your own matters. Even if I want to, I can't. He flicked his sleeves and walked out with his hands behind his back. In Feng Jiu's space, she sat quietly beside the spiritual spring with her eyes closed. She was deducing the refining method and steps of the level 7 detoxification pill in her mind. After a long time, she opened her eyes, which were shining. She got up and prepared all the spiritual herbs needed for the level 7 detoxification pill. She took out the Shinnong cauldron and summoned her natal heavenly flame. Everything was ready. Her originally worried and restless heart calmed down. There was only one main herb, and there was only one chance of success. Although she had deduced the steps and method in her mind, if she still failed in the end, it could only mean that she had tried her best. It was really not easy to find the spiritual herbs for the level 7 detoxification pill. Not to mention the other pills. Just this 500-year-old 7-star spiritual herb was not easy to find. In addition, even though the poison in the black market master and Gumo's body had been forced to a corner of their bodies, if they were not cured as soon as possible, the poison would break out again. If they really waited until the poison broke out, even a god would not be able to save them. The flame in the pill furnace lit up. She controlled the flame and put the processed spiritual herbs in one by one. Her movements were so familiar that it was as if she had practiced it millions of times. As time passed, all of the spirit herbs were thrown into the furnace. Due to the consumption of spirit force and her concentration, a layer of sweat appeared on her forehead, and her face was a bit pale. In particular, when she flipped her palm and continuously sent spirit force into the furnace to control her life force flame, she felt the pressure on her mind become even greater. It was as if a string was tightly stretched, and she couldn't relax for even a moment. As time passed, the air was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. Smelling this pleasant medicinal fragrance, she began to condense the pill. She knew that this was the final key, so she didn't dare to be careless. At this moment, in the sky in her space, clouds surged. Black clouds condensed from nowhere and tightly covered Feng Jiu and the pill furnace. She raised her head and quickly flipped her hand to form a pill. Just at this moment, the first bolt of pill lightning came down from above and landed on the pill furnace below. Bang! It was like a sudden clap of thunder that shook the ground. Immediately after, the second bolt of lightning struck down, followed by the third bolt. In an instant, 3 bolts of lightning struck down consecutively. After the 3 bolts of lightning, the layer of clouds above gradually dispersed. Chapter 2183. In a corner of the space, little white tiger, who was playing by itself, saw that she had already laid down. Its small body leaped up and bounced towards her, pouncing on her as it cried out. Soft fur entered her hands as its small body lay on top of her. It stuck out its tongue and licked her face, causing her to laugh softly. All right, I'll bring you out later so that you can play outside. She stroked the little white tiger's soft fur as she spoke. She lay quietly on the ground for a while until she felt the spiritual power in her body gradually recover. Then she sat up, put the little white tiger down, and walked to the pill furnace. Looking inside, she saw 3 level 7 antidote pills lying there quietly. Streaks of spiritual energy formed pill patterns on the pills, and a rich medicinal fragrance filled the air. She smiled and took out 3 exquisite small bottles. With a pat on the pill furnace, the 3 pills flew up and were placed into the bottles. After exiting the space, she walked out of her room and let little white tiger out to play. Then she called out Lung Shuang. Her voice, which contained a trace of spiritual energy, spread from the residence. Lung Shuang, who was in the residence, heard Fengjiu's voice and quickly came to her courtyard. When she saw her master standing in the courtyard, she stepped forward and bowed. Master, prepare water for me. I want to take a bath. Also, get someone to find little white tiger some food. Yes, Lung Shuang responded, glancing at little white tiger, who was jumping around in the courtyard, before turning to leave. An hour later, Fengjiu walked out of her room wearing a red dress. Her silky black hair fell naturally behind her back and was only lightly tied up with a red ribbon. The dazzling red dress was simple, but it gave her a different and enchanting aura. When they heard that she had returned, Guan Shilin, Lung Hua, and the others also came to the residence. When they saw her in a dazzling red dress, their eyes lit up. Although they had already seen their mistress's beauty when she wore women's clothes, they were still stunned every time they saw her. Among all the people they had seen, she was the only one who could wear red clothes with such a temperament. The recklessness of the red dress and her confidence combined to form a unique temperament. Her beautiful face, set off by the dazzling red dress, appeared even more magnificent and unparalleled. When she was dressed in green, she restrained her aura and sharpness, as if she was a noble young master who had not experienced much of the world. There was not the slightest trace of fierceness. However, when she was dressed in red, the aura of an expert was fully displayed. Her sharp edge was extremely dazzling. Coupled with her confident and willful expression, as well as the devilish smile on her lips, this was the aura and grace that the legendary ghost Dr. Fengjiu should have. Greetings, Master. Lung Hua and the others stepped forward, bowed, and called out respectfully. Xiaojiu. Guan Shilin smiled as he looked at his younger sister in front of him. Fengjiu nodded at everyone and said, I have refined the level 7 antidote. There is one here. Take it and give it to Guemo. I will go and take a look at that black uncle. As she spoke, she took out a medicine bottle from her space and handed it to Guan Shilin. Brother, I will have to trouble you to make this trip. No problem, Guan Shilin said, taking the medicine bottle and looking at Lung Hua and the others. Master, then we will go and see Guemo first. Chapter 2184. I will go over later to check on his condition. For now, you all should take care of him. She said to everyone. Yes. They responded, bowed, and then left. After they left, Fengjiu brought Lung Shuang to the Ling residence. Once they entered, Fire Phoenix, who had transformed into a small bird, flew down from the branches and landed on her shoulder. Fire Phoenix, the little white tiger, is in the residence. Go play with it. Fengjiu slightly tilted her head and smiled as she spoke to Fire Phoenix on her shoulder. Okay, Fire Phoenix replied. Knowing that she was busy, it did not disturb her and flew off her shoulder towards the Feng residence. Ghost Doctor, a middle-aged man, came in and respectfully bowed to her. Fengjiu slightly nodded. Under the middle-aged man's lead, they arrived at the inner courtyard that was heavily protected. Entering the room, they saw the old man guarding the bed. Ghost Doctor is here. Has the 7th rank detoxification pill been refined? When the old man saw Fengjiu, joy appeared in his eyes, and he quickly walked over. Oh, not bad. The 7th rank detoxification pill has been refined. She nodded her head and looked at the person lying on the bed. Slowly walking over, she sat down on the chair next to the bed. Great! I knew it. I knew that the ghost doctor would have a way to save my master. The old man's eyes were red, and he was extremely excited. Feng Jiu first checked his pulse, and then checked him. Finally, she took out a pill bottle and poured out the pill inside. Pour a cup of water, she said to the old man to the side. Yes, yes. The old man quickly went to the table and poured a cup of water. He looked at the pill in Feng Jiu's hand. The 7 veins on the pill made him extremely excited. This was a 7th rank detoxification pill. This was something that could save his master's life. Feng Jiu personally fed the detoxification pill and water to the owner of the black market. Bring me a basin. As she spoke, she lifted him up with one hand and used her spiritual energy to carefully move it around the black market owner's body. Pooh! The owner of the black market spat out a mouthful of poisonous blood. As the poison had accumulated in his body for a long time, it had formed a blood clot. When he spat out the mouthful of poisonous blood, there was a blood clot in it. The old man's heart skipped a beat when he saw that. He stood guard at the side, unable to help much. He could only watch as the ghost doctor pierced the acupuncture points on his master's body with silver needles and took out another pill to feed him. Although he couldn't help much, seeing that his master's breathing was stable, he heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to take out the poisoned blood from the basin, he heard her voice. Wait, Feng Jiu called out to him. After pulling out the silver needles in his hand, he looked at the old man. Leave that poisonous blood clot for me. This is still needed. The old man was stunned. And this poison is not ordinary. Only a 7th rank detoxification pill can detoxify it. However, the main ingredient for a 7th rank detoxification pill is not easy to find, so I plan to carefully distinguish the poison in this blood. From another angle, I will find a way to detoxify it. As she spoke, she kept the silver needles in her space and said, The poison in your master's body has been cleared. I have also fed him a pill, so he should wake up tomorrow. However, his body has been exhausted, so to fully recover, it will take at least a month. Chapter 2185. Feng Jiu looked at him. What's the matter? He hesitated for a moment, then asked, Does the ghost doctor understand the 5 poisons sect? I only know that the 5 poison sects people are experts in using poison. The 5 poison sects master has 12 poison envoys, and most of their strength is at the celestial sage level. As for the rest, I only know a bit, but I can't say I understand them very well. Hearing her say this, the old man sighed in his heart. Without a complete understanding, she was willing to protect their master and make an enemy out of the 5 poison sect. It had to be said that their master's eye for people was very good. If it was anyone else, they probably would have just washed their hands of this matter. Ghost Doctor, the 5 poison sects master, is known as the 5 poison sects master. His strength is above the celestial sage level, and what we fear the most is not the 12 poison envoys under him. Instead, the poison sect has a poison technique. That poison technique uses one's body as poison and uses one's body to cultivate poison. When the poison technique is mastered, all the poison in the body will be transferred to the left hand. Thus, it is known as the 10,000 poisons hands. If this 10,000 poisons hands is mastered, combined with the use of spiritual energy, its power will be great. Very few people are able to defeat it, the old man said in a deep voice, then looked at her with a serious expression, saying, This 10,000 poisons hands is a poison technique that only the master of the 5 poison sect can cultivate. Last time, when the 5 poison sects master fought with my master said that he had already mastered the poison technique to 70%, so I'm worried. Hearing this, Feng Jiu nodded. I understand. I will be careful. She stood up and said, Take care of your master here. When he wakes up tomorrow, have someone inform me. All right. The old man agreed, then handed the poison blood clots to her, then sent her off. Feng Jiu returned to the Feng Manor to check on Gumo's situation. After confirming that the poison in Gumo's body had been cured after he vomited blood, She handed over some matters to Lung Hua and the others. Then, she returned to her room and closed the door. No one knew what she was busy with inside. Only when the sky darkened did she walk out of her room with an exhausted expression. Xiao Jio, you're done? Guan Shilin, who was sitting in the courtyard, saw her come out and indicated for her to sit down. He poured her a cup of tea. Rest. Look at how busy you've been these days. I'm fine. Feng Jio smiled. After sitting down, he picked up his teacup and drank some tea. He said, I've studied the composition of the poison and found the antidote. When the time comes, even if someone is poisoned again, they might not necessarily need a 7th-grade antidote to detoxify it. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm waiting for you here because I have something for you. He smiled and took out some treasures he had obtained outside. Feng Jio couldn't help but stare in a daze when she saw the treasures placed on the table. The items on the table were piled up into a small mountain. There were precious treasures, glowing beads the size of a baby's fist, and so on. Everything was piled up one by one. She only felt that the small mountain in front of her was sparkling. This light attracted the little white tiger and fire phoenix, who were playing in the courtyard, and Lao Bai, who was sleeping on the tree, to gather around. Brother, where did you get so many things? Don't tell me you went out to rob someone? She picked up a precious bead on the table and looked at it in shock. She couldn't help but click her tongue. Good stuff. Why are there so many treasures? Why didn't I see these when I went out? Chapter 2186. All for me. She was slightly surprised. So many treasures. Yes, they're all for you. Wait a moment. He smiled and took out the fiery red stone from his spatial ring. Because the red stone was too big and there were treasures on the table, such a precious and priceless piece of top-grade fiery stone was casually placed on the ground by him. Look at this stone. I brought it back from a volcano in the volcano forest. I saw that the color was as beautiful as a flame, so I wanted to bring it back for you. He smiled and said, I wanted to find a sculptor to carve this stone and give it to you, but I don't know what you like, so I'll give it to you like this. Find a time to send it over and carve it. Make it look good, and you can put it in the heavenly pill house to admire. Feng Jio was stunned when he took out the top-grade fiery stone. Such a dazzling color, such a large piece of fiery stone. This was the best of the best. What did her brother just say? Carve it. Thinking of this, she asked, Brother, do you know what this is? I know. It's some kind of top-grade fiery stone, and it's worth some money, Guan Shilin said. Hearing this, the corner of her mouth twitched. It's worth some money? Such a large piece, and it's the color of flame. This is a priceless treasure. Fortunately, you didn't carve it, or my heart would ache. She couldn't even find a piece of this thing, but her brother actually brought back such a large piece, and it was even a top-grade one. Guan Shilin smiled and said, I knew you would like this thing. At that time, many people wanted to snatch it from me, but in the end, they couldn't beat me. Hearing this, Feng Jio chuckled. I know. At that time, I was also in the volcano forest. You were with that group of mercenaries, right? We should have met on the way. It's just that you didn't see me, and I didn't see you. It was only after you left behind the volcano, and those people wanted to chase after you that I saw your figure that I helped you to stop them. As she spoke, she smiled slyly and said, I robbed all of their belongings. Hearing this, Guan Shilin was slightly surprised. So you were inside at that time? No wonder. I was still wondering why the people behind us didn't catch up. So it was you who helped us from behind. Hearing her say this, he finally understood. Feng Jio narrowed his eyes and picked up the treasures on the table to play with. At that time, it was because she saw his figure that she stood out to block those people. Otherwise, she wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. Master, you already have too many treasures to count. Fire Phoenix looked at the small mountain of treasures on the table and glanced at Guan Shilin. It's good to have an older brother. Guan Shilin was a big guy, but he treated his owner well. Hearing this, both of them laughed. All right, Xiao Jio, put everything away. Brother brought these for you. If you like them, you can keep them. If you don't like them, you can give them away, he said with a smile and motioned for her to put everything away. Brother, every time you go out, you bring back so many treasures for me. Did you keep some for yourself? When you marry in the future, you'll need betrothal gifts. And Yi Jing, she's in the lower continent now. Won't you find a time to go and marry her? She winked at him and said. Chapter 2187. Seeing the expression on his face, Fengjiu knew what he was thinking and said, "Brother, how about this? Since you've come back, don't go out for the time being. Stay here and wait for me to settle things here. Then I'll go with you. Even if the two of you don't plan to get married, you can still settle the marriage first, so that Yi Jing's family won't make other arrangements for her." Hearing this, Guan Shilin smiled and said, "Okay, then we'll go together." He then asked, "But should we tell Godfather and the others about this?" Although he had no family of his own, Xiaojio's family was his family. If he wanted to settle the marriage, should he tell Godfather and the others? "I'll send someone to send a message back when the time comes. When you marry Yi Jing in the future, you'll naturally need my father and the others to step in," she said with a smile. Looking at the treasures on the table, she said, "Then I'll put these things away first. When you get married in the future, your little sister will naturally prepare good things for you." The brother and sister chatted in the courtyard. Because it was already dark after the lanterns were lit, the two of them sat in the courtyard, eating, drinking, and chatting, until a figure quietly came. The three beasts in the courtyard glanced at the newcomer and went out to take a look, pretending not to see him. After all, as long as he was not an enemy, they could ignore him. "You two siblings are in a good mood." And Mo Chun, who was sitting on the wall and dressed in white, said as he looked at the two in the courtyard, "Why didn't you go through the main door and climb over the wall to come in?" Fengjiu saw him and couldn't help but smile. He was obviously an immortal-like figure, but he liked to climb over walls. This hobby was really strange. And Mo Chan sat on the wall and sighed softly. "It's not that I like to climb over walls and not go through the main door. It's just that I've come a few times and been blocked. I had no choice but to climb over the wall and take a look." Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. "Why were you blocked?" "I didn't ask anyone to stop you." After thinking for a while, he suddenly smiled. That's right. I was indeed a little busy a few days ago. They were probably worried that someone would disturb me, so they didn't let you in." As she spoke, she looked at him, raised her eyebrows, and smiled. "Aren't you coming down for a drink or two?" Hearing this, Mo Chin's eyes flashed, and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. He then lightly leaped down and landed on the ground. At this time, Fengjiu called for the Lung Shuang outside to bring in another wine glass. Lung Shuang took the wine glass and stepped back. Fengjiu poured him a glass of wine. Mo Chan revealed a wisp of a smile towards Fengjiu when she saw this, and then she raised her wine cup and took a light sip. "Gongzi Mo Chun, no matter what, this is my sister's courtyard. You're a man after all. It's best if you don't do this kind of behavior again," Guan Shilin said with a straight face. Cough, cough. Mo Chin had just taken a sip of wine when he heard Guan Shilin's words. He couldn't help but choke. He put down the wine glass in his hand and looked at Guan Shilin, who had a straight face as if he was protecting a child. He couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. "You're thinking too much. Your sister doesn't see me as a man at all." Fengjiu heard this, and the corner of her mouth twitched. She glanced at Mo Chun. Guan Shilin frowned and stared at him. Chapter 2188. He looked at Fengjiu and said, "I'm here tonight to see if you're back about what happened a few days ago." "I already know about what happened a few days ago. You don't have to tell me anymore." Fengjiu interrupted him and smiled. "Since you're here, let's drink and chat tonight." Seeing this, he smiled and said, "All right." The three of them sat in the courtyard, chatting and drinking until late at night, when Guan Shilin and Mo Chin finally left. The next morning, someone from the Ling residence came to inform her that their master had woken up and wanted to see her. Thus, she went to the Ling residence after washing up. "Ghost doctor, my master has really woken up." The old man saw her enter and quickly welcomed her with a face full of joy. Fengjiu nodded slightly and walked in. She saw the middle-aged man sitting on the bed with his eyes closed. "Uncle Black, how do you feel?" Feng Jiu casually sat down on a chair beside the bed with a smile on her face. Her expression was natural as she asked in a relaxed tone. However, when she called him Uncle Black, the owner of the black market was stunned for a moment before he broke into laughter. "Why did you call me Uncle Black? Did you think that because I'm the owner of the black market, you can call me Uncle Black?" He looked at the beautiful woman in red in front of him, his eyes flashing. This was the ghost Dr. Fungio in person. In the past, all he saw were portraits, but today, seeing him in person, he knew that he was 100 times more realistic than the portraits. Fungio smiled and said, "Although I've dealt with the black market countless times, I still don't know your name. Since you're the owner of the black market, I think Uncle Black is quite suitable for you." Hearing this, he let out a low chuckle. The chuckle vibrated from his chest and seemed to have affected the injuries in his body. His face became pale and sweat seeped out of his forehead. However, there was still a happy smile on his face. It could be seen that he was in a good mood. "Fine, Uncle Black it is then. You're probably the only one who dares to call me that. Actually, I have a question that I've wanted to ask for a long time, but I never had the chance. Now that Uncle Black is awake, why don't you answer my question?" She narrowed her eyes and looked at him with a smile. Hearing this, the owner of the black market glanced at her with a smile in his eyes and asked, "You want to ask me why I've been taking care of you all these years?" Fengjiu nodded. "Yes. Although we were talking about a cooperative relationship, it is true that the black market has helped me a lot. I also know that the black market has secretly helped me solve some problems, so I'm a little curious. What is the reason?" She looked at him and rested her chin on her hand. After thinking for a while, she said, "As far as I know, before this, I have never met you, Uncle Black, let alone saved you. So, why did you help me?" Even if it was a cooperative relationship, most of the time, the black market could stand by and do nothing. However, the black market didn't do that. Instead, they stood up and helped her solve the problem. Moreover, the black token was given to her, just like that. Even if the people in the black market didn't say anything, she knew that there seemed to be something she didn't know. This time, since she had the opportunity to meet face to face, she naturally wanted to ask about it. Chapter 2189. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze fell on him. "Someone gave me your portrait and asked me to take care of you. You don't need to ask me who this person is because I don't know who he is. He saved my life a few years ago, and I gave him a keepsake. That year, he had someone send that keepsake and your portrait over." Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. She thought of all the people she knew and asked, "Was the person who saved you a man or a woman? Was it old or young?" The black uncle thought for a bit and smiled. "To you, it should be an old man." "Old man?" Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. She thought of the old man who had given her the green lotus. After giving her the green lotus, there was no news of him. Could it be that he had asked the owner of the black market to take care of her? Other than him, she couldn't think of anyone else. "This time, I have to thank you for saving me." He looked at Fengjiu and said, "In the past, it was because of that favor. After that, you didn't need our help. Now that you saved my life, I have to repay this debt." Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. "Then how does the black uncle want to repay me?" She looked at him and said with a smile, "This debt of saving my life is not something that can be repaid with money. Also, I don't lack money." Naturally, he nodded and said with a serious expression, "How about this? I'll give the black market to you." Fengjiu was stunned. "What? Did she hear wrong?" "I said, I'll give the black market to you. In the future, you'll be the black market master. How about it?" He revealed a smile and looked at her, thinking that this was a good idea. "This black market was created by you, and you're giving it to me? How can that be?" She waved her hand. "Also, I don't have the energy to manage such a large black market. I don't want it." Seeing her face full of disdain, he couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "So many people are looking forward to my black market, but you have a face full of disdain. Do you know how much power and influence this black market has?" Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. "Black uncle, don't brag. The black market's power is quite big, I know that. But look, after you were poisoned by the 5 Poisons sect, Which one of the black market's branches hasn't closed their doors? Now, I'm guessing that the people in your black market are causing a ruckus. She said casually, the black market is a mess right now. I don't want to take over. I have enough troubles. Also, you've worked with me for a long time. Uncle Black smiled and shook his head. All right, that's a mess. It's fine if you don't want it. How about this? You. I don't want to suffer such a loss. She pursed her lips and glanced at him. I was the one who saved you, and you want me to be your goddaughter? I even have to call you godfather? You're taking all the advantages. That's because you don't know my true identity. You don't know how strong and powerful my family is. He smiled and shook his head. Looking at her, he said, I'm telling you the truth. Being my goddaughter isn't me taking advantage of you, but it's also very beneficial to you. Chapter 2190. Hearing this, his expression showed a moment of desolation, but he quickly covered it up and smiled. You don't have to worry about that. I haven't even married in my entire life, so how could I have children? If you become my daughter, everything I have will naturally be yours. Furthermore, your status won't be low. Even if my family members see you, they will have to show you some respect. Feng Jiu was slightly surprised, looking at him sitting on the bed. You haven't married? That can't be. You don't look bad, and with that mighty and extraordinary figure, there shouldn't be no woman who likes you. Her gossipy nature was aroused, and she asked with a smile, Is it because your standards are too high and you don't like anyone? Or is the woman you like married to someone else? Cough. The old man at the side coughed lightly. Feng Jiu looked at the old man, and then looked at the dark uncle who seemed to be reminiscing, and couldn't help but say apologetically, I'm sorry, I'm too nosy. Sometimes my curiosity just can't be stopped. It's fine. The dark uncle smiled. Let's get down to business. Since I don't have any children, why don't you just take me as your daughter? Seeing that Feng Jiu didn't say anything, he said, I haven't told you my family and name. Actually, there's no rush. Let me think about it. Feng Jiu stood up, looked at him, and said, Dark uncle, you should rest here first. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be heading back first. Saying this, she didn't wait for him to speak and left first. Seeing Feng Jiu leave, the old man at the side said, Master, are you really going to take the ghost doctor as your daughter? If you really take her as your daughter, there will probably be people in the family who will oppose it. Humph! He snorted lightly and said, When is it their turn to criticize my matters? As long as this little girl takes me as her adoptive father, I won't have to worry about my things falling into someone else's hands in the future. That's true. The ghost doctor's temperament is extremely good. If she can really become your little master, it will be a good thing for master. The old man smiled as he spoke. Then he glanced at him on the bed and hesitated for a moment before saying, However, in this subordinate's opinion, it won't be easy for the ghost doctor to acknowledge you as his foster father. It doesn't matter. It's good that you acknowledge me. Even if you don't, I'll use other ways to repay you for saving my life. He slowly closed his eyes and said, Help me lie down. Yes. The old man stepped forward and carefully helped him back to the bed to rest. When Feng Jiu returned to the Feng Manor, the white-clothed Mo Chan was already sitting in her courtyard. Seeing him, she was slightly surprised. You just left last night. Why have you come back so early in the morning? What's the matter? I was so engrossed in drinking and chatting last night that I forgot about the important matter. That's why I came over this morning to tell you about it. He poured tea and gestured for Feng Jiu to sit. The person who came to seek medical treatment was someone from the Yin family. That person has already died and was sent back a few days ago. I thought that you wouldn't understand the Yin family, so I wanted to remind you. Hearing this, Feng Jiu raised an eyebrow. That's the person that Lung Hua said had mutated? That's right, it wasn't a mutation. He was poisoned by corpse poison. Corpse poison? Feng Jiu looked at him with surprise. What do you mean? Chapter 2191. His voice paused, and he glanced at her, slowly saying, The one who died was the son of the first wife of the Yin family. You have to be careful these days. I estimate that you've been facing one trouble after another recently. Hearing this, Fengjiu sighed softly, one hand holding her cheek. I haven't provoked anyone recently, but why are these troublesome matters coming to me one after another? She looked at him, asking, didn't you say that you can help me a little by following me? Are you able to deal with these matters? Hearing this, Imo-chan chuckled. How can the forces you've provoked be ordinary? First it was the Temple of Dark Night, then it was the Five Poisons sect, and now it's the Een family's corpse-nurturing family. Not to mention the others, just any one of these three forces is not something an ordinary person can deal with. The Temple of Dark Night hasn't caused me any trouble recently. I estimate that after that place was destroyed by me, they're busy rebuilding it. The Five Poisons sect, on the other hand, I've heard that the Five Poisons sect's master's poison techniques are somewhat frightening. Only, I haven't fought with him before and don't know how strong he is, so I can't guard against him. As for the Een family, her voice paused, and she smiled. If they cause trouble for me because of this matter, then I naturally won't let them have an easy time. Saying this, she smiled. Right now, the master of the black market has already been cured of the poison. If the matter of the Five Poisons sect can be left to them to deal with themselves, then that's naturally the best. This way, I can also relax. Also, I plan to accompany my brother on a trip to the lower continents in a few days. You've also refined a 7th level antidote? Mo Chen's gaze moved slightly. He didn't expect that she would actually be able to refine a 7th level antidote. And they've all taken the 7th level antidote. The poison in their bodies has been cured, but their internal injuries still need to be healed. She frowned, saying, I just don't know when the people of the Five Poisons sect will come knocking on my door. The people I've sent out have been investigating for so long, but they still haven't found their whereabouts. Even if they want to infiltrate the Five Poisons sect to investigate, there's no way. Hearing this, Mo Chen's expression changed, asking, You want to infiltrate the Five Poisons sect? Yes. She nodded. Although I wanted to leave this matter to the black market to deal with themselves, that black uncle's poison has been cured, but his body will need about a month to recover. If we meet again, there will be more problems, so I thought that if we can find out the truth, it would be better to make arrangements early. I'll go with you. What? She was startled and looked at him. He looked at her and said, I know where it is. I'll go with you. Where are we going? I'm going too. They followed the voice and saw Guan Shilin striding in. He sat down at their table and poured himself a cup of tea. Where did you say you were going? Count me in, I'll go too. Hearing this, Fengjiu and Imo-chan looked at each other and smiled. She looked at Imo-chan and said, If that's the case, why don't we leave now? Okay. Imo-chan nodded. You still haven't told me where we're going? Guan Shilin asked from the side. Seeing the smiles on their faces, he felt a little strange. What were these two talking about? Why didn't he understand? We're going to one of the Five Poisons sect strongholds here, Imo-chan said with a smile, saying, I just don't know if the Five Poisons sect master will be there. Chapter 2192. The people of the Five Poisons sect had injured so many people of the Heavenly Pill building. Even if they destroyed a small base, it would not be enough to compensate for the deaths of the Phoenix Guards in that battle. All right, let's go. Imo-chan also stood up, flicked his robe, and asked, Do you need to make some arrangements here? It might take a day or two to go back and forth. Leave a few small beasts here, and let Lung Hua and Du Fan know what to do. Fengjiu walked out, and the two people behind him looked at each other, then left as well. After giving instructions to Lung Hua and the others, Fengjiu and the other two quietly left. They followed Imo-chan on their flying swords until they arrived at a valley in the evening. Fengjiu looked at the valley in surprise. If it were not for Imo-chan leading the way, she would not have been able to find such a steep and remote valley. The Five Poisons sect is a hidden force. I don't know where Zhongjin is, but this place is where they gather when they are active outside. I also found out by chance that even if the sect master of the Five Poisons sect is not here, there will definitely be traces of the 12 poison envoys under him. However, they're all very good at using poison, so you all have to be careful. As he spoke, he took out a black cloak from the space and tied it around his body, covering his conspicuous white robe. Only then did he lead them inside. There is a formation here. Guanxilin followed them, and also noticed that there was a formation protecting this place. Not only is there a formation, there's also a poisonous fog inside. And Mo Chun, who was at the front, said without even turning her head. After she led them out of the formation, they saw a dense fog. At this time, the sky had already darkened, and it was difficult to see clearly in the darkness. The three of them stopped here. Feng Jiu handed them a detoxification pill and gave it to them before continuing to walk forward. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, they came to the edge of the cliff. Looking down, they could only see faint flickering lights. Feng Jiu and Guanxilin couldn't help but be slightly surprised. They didn't expect to see such a scene inside. So they were hiding at the bottom of the valley. No wonder we couldn't find them. Feng Jiu suddenly said, "This place is surrounded by mountains and fog. It is indeed a good place to hide, but how are we going to get down? If we fly down on our swords, we might be noticed by them." "There's a staircase over there," Mo Chun said. He then said to the two of them, "Restrain your auras and follow me." The two of them nodded and retracted their auras. They quietly followed behind him until they reached the bottom of the valley and saw two groups of people patrolling in the night. "Avoid them. We'll go around them from the back," Mo Chun said in a low voice as he led them to the other side. When they arrived at a courtyard, they saw a middle-aged man with a broken arm talking to a few other people. "I will not let the people from the Heavenly Pill building off. That Guanxilin who broke my arm, I will definitely tear him to pieces." As he spoke, he clenched his fist and slammed it heavily on the table. Chapter 2193. They raised their wine bowls and clinked them together, shouting, "Cheers!" and downed the wine in one gulp. After downing the wine, they put down their wine cups. Some of them ate side dishes, some poured wine, and some said, "Master's 10,000 poisonous hands has reached the final stage. We can't let anything happen in the next few days." "What are you worried about? This place is so secluded, and we, the 8 poison emissaries, are guarding this place. How could anything happen?" One of them said as he ate with his chopsticks. "That's right. With the strength of the 8 of us and so many people guarding this place, even a mosquito wouldn't be able to fly in." The 4 people inside chatted. In the shadows, Feng Jiu and the other 2 made a hand signal and quietly retreated. After they arrived at a safe place, Feng Jiu's eyes flashed. She lowered her voice and said, "I didn't think that the 5 Venoms sect master would actually be here. Furthermore, his 10,000 poisons hands is already at the final juncture." Those 4 people said that the 8 poison emissaries are guarding this place. It seems that other than the 4 people drinking there, the other 4 must be guarding the place where the 5 poison sect master cultivates. Guanxilin also lowered his voice and said, "It seems that we came at the right time." Mo Chun smiled and looked at the 2 people. "Don't alert the enemy. Let's search in secret first. Finding the place where the 5 poison sect master cultivates is the most important thing. How about we capture one person and interrogate him?" Guanxilin asked. "It's no use," Feng Jiu and Mo Chun said at the same time. They looked at each other and said to Guanxilin, "The people of the 5 poison sect are all poisoned. It's very difficult to get information from them. If we capture someone, there's a risk of being exposed. It's better to search in secret." "That's right," Mo Chun nodded. "This place is not very big. If the 3 of us split up and search, it should not be difficult to find the location of the 5 Venom sect master. However, we cannot act alone when searching for someone. We must discuss this before making any plans." "All right," the 2 of them agreed. After discussing where to meet up after a while, they each chose a direction to search in. At this moment, it was deep into the night. Although the people in the mountain valley were patrolling, no one had noticed that 3 people had quietly snuck in. Even the 4 great poison envoys, who were drinking and chatting, did not expect that the people they were talking about would discover this place. Moreover, they had already entered this place without their knowledge. The three of them were considered powerful, and coupled with the fact that they had concealed their auras, not to mention the poison envoys, the patrolling poison sect guard were even more unable to discover them. However, it wasn't easy to find the hiding place of the 5 poison sects sect master in the courtyards built in the valley. After searching for a while, they still couldn't find him. It wasn't until close to midnight that Guanshelin had to pee and went to the back of the courtyard against the mountain to relieve himself. Who would have thought that with a casual glance, he would discover a cave residence? After relieving himself, he quietly approached and saw that it was pitch black in front of him. There were lights everywhere, but none here. However, there was a cave at the foot of the mountain. In front of the cave, there were 2 middle-aged men in black robes, sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed. Chapter 2194. Moreover, there was still a distance of about 100 meters from the cave in front of the barrier. Fortunately, there was this distance, otherwise he would definitely be discovered if he were to relieve himself in front of the cave. There was no barrier anywhere else, but there was one here, and there were people guarding it. Moreover, there wasn't even a single lamp lit. It could be seen that the 5 Venom sect master was definitely inside. He quietly retreated, returning to the agreed-upon place to wait. Not long after, he saw Mo Chun and Feng Jiu arrive one after the other. He beckoned to the 2, and when the 2 came closer, he lowered his voice and said, "I found the place where the 5 Venom sect master is hiding." Feng Jiu's gaze moved when he heard this, asking, "Where?" Guanshelin pointed forward, saying, "It's in front of the cave, but there's a barrier there. Moreover, I only saw 2 poison envoys guarding outside the cave, but I didn't see the other 2. If we break the barrier and enter, we will definitely alarm everyone. What should we do now? 2 hands can't fight 4 fists. Aren't you also very good at poison? How about we give him some poison?" Imochen looked at Feng Jiu and said. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's mouth twitched, and he glanced at him. This person had the appearance of a banished immortal, but when it came to scheming, he was even more vicious than her, directly saying to use poison. "No, poison may not be effective against these people," she said slowly, saying, "The people of the poison sect are more sensitive to the smell of medicine and poison than normal people. Whether it's using medicine or poison on them, it's not appropriate." She pondered, saying, "I have an idea." "What idea?" The 2 looked at her. "Creating a diversion." Feng Jiu said, "Using a diversion tactic to divert their attention." She looked at the 2, saying, "The 3 of us will split into 2 teams. One team will divert their attention, and the other team will be the main attack. The lives of the others are secondary, but it's best if we use this opportunity to kill the 5 Venom sect master. Otherwise, if he succeeds in cultivating his extremely powerful poison arts, it will indeed cause serious casualties." Hearing this, Guanshelin said, "Xiaojiu, how about this? I will divert their attention. You and Mo Chan will be the main attackers to deal with the 5 poison sect master. I feel that if we divert their attention, at most 1 or 2 poison envoys will come towards us. They will most likely go to guard the 5 poison sect master in the cave dwelling. Therefore, you must be extremely careful." "Yeah, I think what he said makes sense. As the main attacker, we have to face more danger. We have to be prepared." Imochen nodded and looked at Guanshelin. "But don't be careless. The people here are all experts in using poison. Don't get poisoned by them." "I know. Xiao Jiu asked me to take the antidote pill. Normal poisons can't do anything to me. As for other things, I'll be careful." He nodded. "Okay, then it's decided." Feng Jiu said, looking at Guanshelin. "Brother, you have to be careful. If you can't beat them, run." Hearing this, Guanshelin smiled. "Okay, I know. Let's go. I'll take you there first, then we'll act according to the situation." He brought the 2 of them to the cave abode they had discovered. After arriving at the cave abode, the few of them discussed in low voices for a while before splitting up. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Guanshelin lit fires all over the valley. The blazing fire lit up the entire valley as if it was daytime. In an instant, as the fire burned in the valley, The originally tranquil valley was filled with screams and curses. Chapter 2195. Damn it! How could there be a fire? Quickly put out the fire. Amidst the shouts and curses, the four people who were drinking in the courtyard quickly came out to take a look. When they saw the raging fire all around the valley, they were shocked. How could there be a fire for no reason? Could it be that someone has snuck in? The four people were shocked. One of them grabbed a poison guard who was running in front of him and asked, "What's going on? How could there be a fire? Did someone break in?" Poison envoy. We didn't find anyone breaking in. However, there are flames all around. Someone has already gone to check. The man was just speaking when he was suddenly interrupted by a voice. Ha 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 ha. So this is your lair. This fire makes me, your grandpa Guan, feel so good. A sudden burst of laughter rang out in the night, startling everyone, especially the middle-aged man with the broken arm. When he heard this voice, he stared in the direction of the voice in disbelief. On top of a protruding rock in the valley, a well-built figure was standing there with a long saber in his hand. He raised his head and laughed loudly. The provocative words and the deafening laughter caused the poison envoy with the broken arm to boil with rage. "It's you, Guan Shilin. You actually dare to come here. You're here to die." The middle-aged poison envoy shouted angrily. His voice carried the aura of spiritual power, clearly spreading in the night. "He's the Guan Shilin who cut off your arm." The three people next to him looked at the figure standing on top of the valley in astonishment. Under the light of the fire, the figure was very conspicuous. He looked to be no more than 20 years old. How could such a person have reached the martial god realm? "It's him," the one-armed poison envoy said through gritted teeth. "Since he dared to come here, we'll capture him and use him to test our new poison." One of them said sinisterly, staring at the figure of Guan Shilin. The man who had been silent all this time looked at the surrounding fire and suddenly had a bad feeling. He said, "How did this person know about this place? He shouldn't have come here alone. Could he have other accomplices?" Hearing this, the other three people were startled. "How about this? You two go and deal with that Guan Shilin. The two of us will go and check on Master. If there is nothing wrong, we will rush back to help." "All right." Hearing this, no one objected. They responded and went their separate ways. The poison envoy with the broken arm and the other poison envoy gathered their chi and headed towards Guan Shilin. The other two went to the cave behind him. "Guan Shilin, how dare you come here? Today, I won't let you leave." The one-armed poison envoy flicked his sleeve, and several hidden weapons shot out toward Guan Shilin. At the same time, he stretched out his hand, and a long sword appeared in his hand. With a surge of spiritual power, the sword aura shot out, and a cold, killing intent instantly enveloped the area. "Ha ha ha!" Guan Shilin raised his head and laughed. His laughter suddenly stopped, and he stared at him fiercely. "I let you escape last time. Today I, your grandpa Guan, will take your life." As he spoke, his chi surged, and he waved the saber in his hand, forming a protective shield in front of him. Clang! 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 Chapter 2196. Seeing this, the other poison envoy narrowed his eyes viciously. "Martial god level, I didn't expect you to be so capable." He stared at Guan Shilin and said, "Let me fight you." As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his hands, and two scimitars appeared in his hands. With a surge of spiritual power, his figure swept out like a ghost and slashed at Guan Shilin at lightning speed. Whoosh! Clang! Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh! The two figures fought back and forth at extremely fast speed. One was at the martial god level, and the other was at the celestial sage level. Both of them were equal in strength, but it seemed that Guan Shilin's fighting strength was slightly better. After all, he had improved his fighting strength by steadily gaining experience in the outside world, while his opponent was a poison envoy who mainly used poison. Although his cultivation of spiritual power had reached the celestial sage level, his fighting strength was naturally incomparable to Guan Shilin's. Clang! The two blades collided with each other, emitting a sonorous sound. A powerful airflow burst out from their bodies, causing their robes to flutter in the wind. Guanxilin continued to increase the strength of the scimitar in his hand, causing the poison envoy to be unable to bear the pressure and gradually retract his scimitar. Sweat oozed from his forehead, and he gritted his teeth. He wanted to free one hand, but he couldn't block the pressure from his opponent with one hand. At this moment, the one-armed poison envoy attacked from behind and was about to launch a sneak attack. At this moment, Guanxilin pressed his scimitar down and lifted his foot to kick his opponent. As he kicked him, he waved the scimitar in his hand and directly swept it across. "Huh!" He shouted in a low voice and waved his scimitar. When the scimitar was waved, a fierce chi of saber force attacked. The poison envoy blocked the attack with his scimitars, but the chi of saber force still cut a deep wound on his body. Hiss! He sucked in a breath of air, and his body suddenly retreated, falling from the air. He half-knelt on the ground with one leg and used the saber to support his body. He looked down at the saber wound on his chest and felt that he couldn't exert any strength. He hurriedly took out some medicine and applied it on his wound. In the air, after swinging his saber, Guanxilin turned around to attack the one-armed poison envoy. His opponent only had one hand, and his old injury had not healed yet, so he was no match for Guanxilin. Soul-chasing slash. Guanxilin let out a loud shout as he waved the saber in his hand. Several saber energies whizzed out from the saber and slashed towards the one-armed poison envoy. "Damn it, you!" The poison envoy was shocked when he saw this. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. He managed to avoid two of the saber chi, but he could not avoid the last one. He felt a chill on his neck, and with a swoosh sound, his head was chopped off and sent flying. Seeing this, the poison envoy below, who was applying medicine to stop the bleeding, revealed a shocked expression. The medicine bottle in his hand fell to the ground, and he didn't bother to pick it up. He immediately shouted to the surrounding poison guards, "Go! All of you attack! Kill him!" As for himself, he retreated step by step towards the cave where his master was in seclusion. Too awesome. That damn Guanxilin was too awesome. With that kind of amazing fighting strength, I'm afraid that even if 3 or 4 people joined forces, they wouldn't be his match. Damn it. He never knew that a martial god-level cultivator's fighting strength could be so amazing. When he thought about how that head had been cut off so suddenly, without even a chance to scream or escape, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Chapter 2197. His heart was flustered and filled with fear as he walked towards the cave. However, before he could even get close, he froze. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the scene in front of him. He saw that the enchantment that had been protecting the cave had already been broken. In front of him, a handsome man dressed in white robes, who looked like a banished immortal, was dealing with 3 poison envoys. What shocked him was that the man was actually handling the attacks of the 3 poison envoys with ease. On the ground, 1 poison envoy had already been killed. The 3 poison envoys had joined forces, but they could not even touch the man's sleeves. In just a few moves, another poison envoy had been killed by the man in white with a single slash of his sword. Looking at the fallen poison envoy and the remaining 2 poison envoys fearfully taking a step back and staring at the man in white, he could not help but hesitate for a moment. Go up. Looking at the situation, going up would only result in death. It would be better to stay here and observe the situation first. Thus, after making up his mind, the injured poison envoy hid in a dark corner and watched. "Who are you? What grudges do you have with our 5 poison sect? You actually want to interfere in the matter between us and the Heavenly Pill building?" One of the poison envoys shouted sternly as he stared viciously at the banished, immortal-like man. Imo-chan had one hand behind his back while the other pointed at his sword. His gaze was calm as he looked at the 2 of them. In a warm voice, he said, "I have no grudges with you. However, you've provoked someone you shouldn't have provoked." "Someone we shouldn't have provoked? Are you referring to the Heavenly Pill building's ghost, Dr. Fingzhou?" or the master of the black market? The poison envoy asked with a frown. The corners of Mo Chin's lips curled up. You're about to die. What's the use of asking so many questions? As soon as his voice fell, the white figure instantly swept out. A powerful pressure instantly filled the air. The two poison envoys were shocked by his pressure, and their bodies seemed to freeze in that moment. They could not move at all. However, in that short moment, they had already lost their lives. Bang, bang. The two figures widened their eyes in horror as their bodies fell straight to the ground. As dignified celestial saints, they were actually suppressed by the other party's aura. To be able to suppress them, this person's strength was far above them. Seeing the two figures fall, the poison envoy, who was peeking from 100 meters away, could not help but cover his mouth. He looked at the immortal-like man in shock. When he saw the man glance in his direction, he could not help but shiver. He turned around and endured the injuries on his body as he quickly fled for his life. It was too terrifying. It was too terrifying. With that kind of strength, who would dare to fight against him? Mo-chan watched as the poison envoy fled, but he didn't give chase. In his opinion, there was nothing to be afraid of. Since they had escaped, so be it. Now, it was better to go in and see if Fengju needed help. Thus, in order to prevent those poison guards from entering, he stretched out his hand and set up a formation to block them. Only then did he stride inside. When he arrived inside, he was surprised to see two corpses lying on the ground. Looking inside, he could no longer see Fengju's figure. Thus, he continued to walk inside. He was aware of her strength. Dealing with these people would not be a problem. However, he was a little uneasy about dealing with the five-poison sect master. Inside, Fengju pushed open the last door and saw the figure sitting cross-legged in the cave. That person also opened his eyes when she pushed open the door. His gaze, filled with hostility, swept towards her. Ghost, Dr. Fengju, you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.